The Age of the Mecha, Fists That Shatter Stars. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Central Axis. The special characteristic is one of the main characteristics of the Heavenly King's divinity. It is different from other divine genes that cannot be amplified by the Heavenly King Mecha after awakening. The special characteristic that Li Yixin awakened can be amplified by the divinity of the Heavenly King Mecha. Moreover, with his current master-level divine control skills, the difficulty of controlling the characteristic will be reduced accordingly. Soon, he figured out the initial use and tried to use it on the Zanpakuken. In the duel, the Heavenly King Mecha stepped on the remains of a previously cut-down Mecha, and jumped up with a subtle force. There was no flash of flames, and it flashed like a ghost to 240-meter Mecha 600 meters away, and suddenly chopped it. The special characteristic was stimulated by the Heavenly King's divinity, forming an extremely strong cutting force like space distortion. Before it touched this A-level middle section, the divine shield of this A-level middle section suddenly twisted, and a blade-shaped gap was directly exposed. The next second, the sword blade chopped down. He didn't use the explosive power of the thrusters for this strike, so the kinetic energy only flashed slightly, and the distance was not far. Logically, if he could hurt the opponent, he would win. But at this moment, the blade cut through the A-level midsection Mecha as easily as cutting a piece of paper, and cut it in an instant. In the cockpit, Li Yi's eyes lit up. The power of this special characteristic exceeded his expectations. Although the total amount of divinity consumed was not low, the benefits were also obvious. He originally wanted to reverse cut these A-level midsection mechas, and the superposition of speed and kinetic energy was the most important. Even though he, as a pilot, was much stronger than the other pilot in the state of 3.1 burst skills, and his reaction speed and total amount of divinity were not inferior, but the tonnage itself was a natural gap. Without the corresponding speed and kinetic energy superposition, the difficulty of breaking the defense would definitely increase greatly. Don't look at him killing several A-level midsections in a blink of an eye, but that was because he used various fake moves to dodge the opponent, and then took advantage of the opponent's high-speed fight to form a strong killing power. Now that the battle group is gradually gathering, he wants to use the B-class mecha to countercut these A-class mid-range mechas again, which originally required more effort. Now with his special characteristics, the defense breaking power has greatly increased. Even if it is just a small-scale acceleration kinetic energy, it is enough to complete the defense breaking, or even cut it off instantly. This allows him to be much more flexible in tactical choices. The besieging mechas here were killed by Li Yi in the blink of an eye. They also seem to have noticed the problem. They were communicating and coordinating internally and adjusting the joint attack formation. Li Yi was not afraid, and controlled the King of Heaven Mecha to rush forward. Now that his defense breaking power has greatly increased, and his means of turning and moving far exceed that of the opponent, he is not afraid of the opponent's joint attack at all. As long as there is no strong man above the A-class to intercept him, he is almost invincible. Moreover, good news came at this time. A familiar voice came through the communicator. Li Yi, this is Chen Kai-ongzi. It is expected to arrive at your location in 3 seconds. We will help you leave and exit the central axis. The intensity of the battle here will be very high by then. Li Yi's heart moved slightly, and replied, no, instead of providing support, it is better to wipe out these low and middle-level A-level opponents. We will quickly clear out the opponents in 5 minutes. If we can't solve them within 5 minutes, we will immediately leave the central axis. Chen Kai-ongzi frowned and said, are you sure? The manpower support I have here is okay, but I can't wipe out all the opponents. Li Yi said, leave it to me. You come and hold back some opponents for me. Chen Kai-ongzi was stunned for a moment, then smiled. I haven't seen you for half a year, and you are getting more and more powerful. I have heard that you have made extraordinary achievements recently. In that case, then I will listen to you. Leave all these pursuers behind. On the other side, the Xianzhou Mecha carried the strongest and the captured Hangser, and took the lead in leaping to the central axis of the battlefield. This just happened to intercept the A-class and S-class machines driven by the Silver and Gold Masters who were fighting alone on the central axis. There were 3 S-class machines and 1 high-level A-class machine. Seeing this, Lin Jianlong laughed. Not bad, Lao Lu and the others performed well, which just gave us the opportunity to close the door and beat the dog. Brothers, go together and keep these few strongest men completely. As long as we keep this wave of strongest men, the gap between our strongest stage and the Star Clan will be basically narrowed. Next, it all depends on Lao He's battle group command skills. As the voice fell, except for Chen Yanxiang's mecha that was too damaged to move and needed to be carried by Tan Yaozu, the other 6, including the Xian's Hao mecha, also surrounded it and fought quickly. In the flash of flames, a 418-meter S-class mecha was selected as a target by the Xian's Hao mecha, and it was quickly pierced with a sword. This mecha was carbon black all over, and except for the flames behind it, it was extremely integrated with the surrounding vacuum environment and was almost invisible to the naked eye. This is also the highest and most powerful mecha in single combat. It is called Gus Mecha, which has infinite courage and powerful divine explosive power. Just now, it was this mecha that noticed the amazing potential of the pilot of the Heavenly King mecha. Even when it was ready to leave the battle group, it did not forget to set up a fierce divine energy cannon to intercept Li Yi. However, because he fired 2 shots in a row, he was delayed and was entangled by Lu Yunsheng's Sea King mecha, delaying the best time to leave. Although Lu Yunsheng's mecha is less than 300 meters high, its strength is indeed extraordinary. It seems that he has mastered many amazing skills such as perfect sword skills, perfect body skills, perfect divine control, etc., and has also created 5 moves of heavenly position. His strength can be called the strongest heavenly position of human beings, and he has defeated the strongest of the 2 clan many times. If the Star Clan had not rarely fought with him, he might have a bigger reputation on the alien side. After all, he had guarded the border star for many years. Even if he did not enjoy the various high-penetration resources of divinity in the ruins of the earth, he had fought in various battles, and the tempering he had received was naturally amazing. This kind of combat power that had been tempered by blood and fire was the reason why he was able to lead the team to challenge the golden strongmen of the Star Clan. Facing the pincer attack of the Sea King mecha and the Skybolt mecha, the Guts mecha was suddenly at a disadvantage. The cosmic light characteristics of the sword tip of the Skybolt mecha suddenly burst out, and pierced out at once. The sword tip suddenly passed through a distance of more than 1,000 meters and came to the huge protruding chest armor of the Guts mecha. The sky blue divine shield outside the Guts mecha suddenly exploded, bursting out with dazzling flames. This S-level Zanpaku sword continued to move forward and continued to penetrate the Guts mecha. The Guts mecha freed up its strong hands, suddenly closed them, and forcibly closed the tip of the S-level Zanpaku sword. However, the Zanpaku sword did not stop, and rubbed against the Guts mecha to produce a huge amount of sparks, and continued to invade. At this time, Guts mecha launched his most powerful move, Collapse Palm. In an instant, the tip of the Zanpaku sword, which was held by both palms, was lifted up by a huge force and twisted violently. With this twist, the wrist of the Xian's Hao mecha could not hold the hilt of the sword. The hilt was forcibly taken away and the steel sparks that burst out from his palm. Seeing this, Lin Jianlong was slightly startled, knowing that the Star Clan should not be underestimated. Even if the leader of the Star Clan was captured, it did not mean that the other Gold Masters were a piece of cake. It was obviously not easy to conquer the remaining Gold Masters. Fortunately, even if this sword was taken away, it was still nothing to Lin Jianlong. The cosmic light characteristics burst out, and the huge Xian's Hao mecha approached the Guts mecha with a bang. With the blessing of the cosmic light characteristics, the fist speed soared to the limit and suddenly hammered the Guts mecha's nose. At this moment, there were only 3 minutes left before the forces of both sides gathered in the central axis area. Chapter 252, Fighting for the Line. The Xian's Hao mecha's punch was so fierce that the Guts mecha was no match for it. It was hit directly, and its chest armor broke in 2. It had to jump back. Soon, the Xian's Hao mecha gained the upper hand, took back the Zanpakuto, and prepared to kill the Guts mecha. At the same time, Hang Zilong controlled the Spei mecha and flew at the head of the square formation formed by the mechas, observing the situation from all sides, and saw the scene where the Xian's Hao mecha was about to kill the Guts mecha a few dozen light seconds away. He thought for a moment, then sent a message to another S-class warrior in the clan, Wu Zhibo, and asked, Wu Zhibo, has the cooling period of your strongest trick, Collapse, expired? It's time for you to play your role. Wu Zhibo was startled and replied, Hang Zilong, I have activated this strongest trick once, and I have to wait 3 months for the next time. Are you sure you want to activate it? Hang Zilong said indifferently, if you don't activate it now, when do you want to wait? Wu Zhibo smiled and said, this is my bottom line combination skill, used to save your life. You can use it when you say so. What if you don't get any benefit in the battle later? Hang Zilong said slowly, I collected a demigod level nucleus before, and its characteristics just correspond to yours, both of which are entropy increasing characteristics. If you can do this, I can give you this demigod level nucleus. Wu Zhibo's eyes lit up and he smiled. Okay, then come on, how do you plan to let me activate this trick? Hang Zilong said indifferently, wait for my signal. When it arrives, send it to the central axis ahead. Those few human golds actually dared to confront other gold masters of our star clan. Let them never come back, Wu Zhibo said. Okay, I'll listen to you. In addition to contacting Wu Zhibo, Hang Zilong also connected other gold masters, promised various benefits, and prepared to make a big move. After a while, they were getting closer and closer to the central axis, with only more than 10 light seconds left. Hang Zilong reminded everyone to start preparing, and after a moment of preparation, he shouted, launch. With an order, all the mechas began to attack. In the vacuum, Wu Zhibo's strongest move, collapse, was launched first. This 467-meter mecha named Wanzu opened its mouth and sprayed a divine energy cannon, blasting forward. This divine energy cannon was extremely fast. Once it was fired, it quickly crossed the threshold of 0.3 light speed, opening a huge distance from the mechas. Soon, when it was about to reach the central axis, it suddenly exploded. In an instant, a huge white ball of light that could cover tens of thousands of kilometers suddenly exploded in the surrounding space. The flashing speed of this ball of light was very fast, and it instantly engulfed the Xianzhou Mecha, Gus Mecha and other mechas fighting in the central axis area. Obviously, this move is a super large-scale attack, which occurs in an instant and can only be resisted, and there is no way to dodge. Moreover, even their own people were injured indiscriminately, which shows how ruthless the move was. After engulfing many mechas fighting in the central axis, this white ball of light suddenly shrank and condensed inward. At the same time when the Wanzu Mecha attacked, the other 4 divine mechas connected in series by Hang Zilong also attacked at the same time. In the vacuum, 4 divine energy cannons were fired. The speed of these 4 divine energy cannons was slightly slower than that of collapse, and they were fired later and arrived later. At the moment when the light ball created by collapse, the strongest move, began to shrink, they arrived at the same time. Moreover, the directions they aimed at were also different, which were the 4 endpoints of the shrinking light ball, left, right, top and bottom. Although these 4 divine energy cannons all came from the alien god sequence, they all have the 4 common characteristics of wind, fire, thunder and ice. After hitting the endpoint, the shrinking light group paused for a moment, and then suddenly shrank. With this shrinkage, it seemed as if the necessary conditions for a super explosion were gathered inside it, and it suddenly exploded. After the light flame flickered, this huge foam light group suddenly shrank inward at the speed of light. The light group of tens of thousands of meters suddenly shrank into more than a dozen scattered small light groups. Looking closely, each group actually wrapped up the S-level and high-level mechas of the human and star clan, and continued to shrink inward like a 1,000-meter bubble. Although the shrinkage speed dropped sharply when it reached a kilometer range. But the load and pressure inside it seemed to have reached the limit. As the foam light group shrank, all the mechas clearly observed that some of the weaker mechas had obvious signs of cracking on their external armor. For some of the stronger ones, their external divine shields were also obviously in danger and could be squeezed and exploded by the foam at any time. The Star Clan obviously knew what it meant to be wrapped in this foam ball of light. Seeing such a victory, everyone smiled on the public channel. As expected of Wu Zhibo, this is a powerful trick that can even trap a demigod. Once collapse is released, all their divinity will be sealed. Humans are just a small tribe. They just relied on the trick of the cosmic light to sneak attack and caught us off guard. If we really talk about various special skills, humans have only a few hundred years of divinity development history. How can it be compared with our hundreds of thousands of years of brilliant and vast civilization? That's right. While chatting and laughing, Wu Zhibo smiled lightly and said, then it's time to choose an opponent. I choose the strongest Xianzhou Mecha of humans. Do you have any objections? Of course I have no objection. Yes, without you Wu Zhibo, how could we have such a victory? Hang Zilong said solemnly, don't be careless. Humans are not weak. It seems that the Xianzhou Mecha is about to break the seal. Now, all gold and silver strongmen, follow me and kill them quickly. Immediately, the 10 gold and 12 silver mechas at the front suddenly leaped forward, streaking out meteor-like flames and flying towards the central axis. On the other side, the divine mechas of the high-level heavenly rank and above that came from the back of the human side also saw the dangerous situation of the mechas that were temporarily sealed, and rushed over first. In a blink of an eye, the battle of the strongest people in this area of the central axis is about to start. However, just when the mechas led by the SPI Mecha were still 1 light second away from the central axis, the largest group of foam light in the central axis suddenly exploded and exploded. At the moment of the explosion, the Xianzhou Mecha simultaneously fired a cosmic light energy cannon, shooting at the divine mechas of the human side one by one. However, although the cosmic light energy cannon bombarded it, although it reduced the contraction speed of the foam light group, it obviously did not explode like it did when it broke through the band before. Immediately, the Xianzhou Mecha held a Zanpaku sword, circled the body with a sword, and swept across. With this action, the strongest move of the Xianzhou Mecha, the cosmic light continuous slash, was launched on the sword blade. In an instant, countless light-colored sword beams flashed out, hitting the foam light balls outside the mechas of the human side like raindrops. These foam light balls were blown up in the blink of an eye, revealing a series of S-level and A-level high-level mechas with bruises all over their bodies. Obviously, this collapse, with the help of the 4 characteristics, formed an extremely strong group attack effect, which weakened the mechas of the human side at once. The battle balance of the strongest seemed to tilt towards the Star Clan again. Chapter 253 Advantages. Li Yi, with the help of Chen Kai-Ong's new force, quickly killed 70% of the A-level middle and early stage pursuers. The remaining 30% ran away when they saw the opportunity was not good. Everyone immediately flew back to the border star. They took the side road, which was more than 10 light seconds away from the central axis. According to the original order, the midfield battle had nothing to do with them for the time being. Therefore, their task was to return to the cruiser outside the border star as soon as possible, to repair their body and mind, and wait for the next order to send to the battlefield. With the strongest people intervening in the battle of the central axis in advance, the entire battlefield has undoubtedly become a meat grinder. All weaker mechas flying over will be injured by various big moves. When the battle of the strongest people comes to an end temporarily, or which side grabs the control of the central axis first, arranges the entire formation, and fires all the way, the battle situation will shift to the next stage. The victory or defeat is determined by the high-level combat power, and it has shifted to a battle of the number of BC-level mechas. The battle at this level depends on the commander's micromanagement. 4 minutes after the battle between the strongest from the central axis began, Li Yi and his group successfully carried a group of A-class mecha captives and flew to the command ship behind the battle line. The command ship is the center of the human side, and He Guangzi is in charge. With the help of the holographic deduction sand table, he consumes his brain power to command the overall situation. Originally, as one of the strongest heavenly positions, He Guangzi should have fought. But in the subsequent command of the super-large Metro Legion level, he is indispensable. Except for General Lin, no one has his command ability and coordination power, as well as his understanding of aliens, so he is the commander of the whole line. At this moment, after everyone returned to the ship, they quickly ejected the insertion cabin and entered a nutrition cabin that had been prepared next to the mecha hangar to quickly replenish consumption and accelerate the recovery of the state. Li Yi consumed the most. In a short 20-minute mission, he almost used the 3.1 version of the burst skill to accelerate throughout the whole process, and he continued to burst at a high frequency. He repeatedly fought at a higher level and could not actively control the rhythm. Therefore, even for him, this time the consumption was far greater than the consumption of 7 consecutive days in the ruins of the earth. The real war, the accidents that could happen at any time, and the tense spirit made him quickly fall into deep sleep as soon as he entered the nutrition cabin. Breathing. In the dream plane, he found the memory fragments related to the battle command of the Legion that he had accumulated before, and quickly absorbed them. While absorbing them, he took stock of the situation he observed when he flew back. In the decapitation operation, one was destroyed and one was captured, both of which are top-level S-class. Hang Zilong, The original target should be killed by General Lin because he saw the opportunity was not good. In other words, the decapitation operation is 66% complete, which is not bad, but the opponent's main war faction has not been completely killed. So the battle is still going to be fought. When General Lin returned to the central axis, he found that time to beat a high-level S-class mecha half tripled. The other strongest people also worked together to defeat the other two S-class. Although there was no quick victory, the damage to the opponent's body basically meant that the subsequent participating forces would suffer a great loss. Basically, the gap between the strongest people has been eliminated. It's a pity that the Star Clan has made another move and weakened the strength of our strongest people. In this way, the battle between the strongest people is still very suspenseful. Next, the battlefield I can set foot in is still the high-level Xianwei. If the battle between the strongest people is still undecided, the subsequent battlefield trend will depend on the large-scale combat. It is still difficult for the human side to win at present. What exactly is the fifth stage that General Lin is talking about? Will the two tribes strike back? After all, in their previous battles, they never took any active action to attack the only S-class mecha of the two tribe. So, what should I do next to be the most appropriate? Sure enough, I have to use my mobility to defeat those high-level opponents as much as possible. My Xianwang mecha is concealed enough. Although its total power is not as good as Gaia's mecha, it can move more flexibly. It also has the blessing of special characteristics, and its combat power is not weak. If it is used well, it may be able to gather a small number into a large one, and roll a small ball into a big ball. As he thought about it, he gradually had an idea. Half an hour later, Li Yu quickly recovered his perfect state and jumped out of the nutrition cabin. Looking around, he found that Chen Kai-Ongzi and others who had entered with him before had already left. This is no wonder. They just came to support and each tried their best to block for a while. The real battle was mainly between several Xianwei and Li Yi. Therefore, the loss was not high, and he quickly completed his recuperation and set off according to the order as a substitute rotation personnel for the frontline combat corps. Without much hesitation, he quickly ran to the hangar and started the Uranus mecha. Originally, the Gaia mecha was more suitable for his current strength, but the Uranus mecha could currently amplify his special characteristics and greatly increase his lethality. Therefore, he boarded the Uranus mecha without hesitation. Just when the startup was completed and they were ready to set off, Guangzi suddenly called in, "You want to join the battle right after you have recovered?" "Yes, don't worry. The battle between the strongest and the high-level Celestials has come to an end for the time being. Now is the stage where both sides are setting up formations and firing at each other, and testing each other. It won't be of much use if you go now. I have an important task for you. It won't be too late to return to the Central Axis battlefield after you complete it." Li Yu frowned. The battle between the strongest came to an end so soon. Guangzi said, "Yes, General Lin killed another top gold of theirs in one breath, and used a big move to scare away the Star Clan. Although the total number of their strongest is still better than ours, most of them dare not fight like this, so they simply fight with us at the BC level army," Li Yu said. "Then did we grab the Central Axis?" Guangzi said, "Yes, but our total troops are only 2/3 of their combined strength. We grabbed the Central Axis and fired at full strength in one breath, which can only temporarily make up for the difference in strength. During this period, I need you to lead a group of elite troops to wander over from the sidelines and tear open their defensive phalanxes on the sidelines." Li Yu combined the fragments of the core wisdom memory that he had just absorbed, and pondered. In other words, their Central Axis was taken away by us, so the troops were piled on both wings? And what I have to do is to disconnect the wings from their Central Axis. Facilitate the advancement of our central troops, Guangzi praised. "Yes, at this point in the war, we have actually gained a lot of advantages, but it is not enough. We also need a group of more mobile people to completely take down the advantage of the Central Axis." Li Yu nodded and said, "Okay, then where are my people? Now they are assigned to you. You can check the detailed instructions on the communicator. Most of them are your acquaintances, which is convenient for you to command. Complete the assembly within 5 minutes and set off quickly. Can you do it?" Li Yu said in a deep voice, guaranteed to complete the task. Chapter 254 Level 8. Li Yu quickly saw the detailed instructions sent on the communicator. The team actually included Lin Wenzhong, Mu Xianli, Chen Kai-Ongzi, Mo Chenlong, Tan Yan and other heavenly rank experts that he had seen before. Li Yu was surprised and said, "With so many senior officers, You want me to lead the team? Officer He, are you kidding? He Guangzi smiled lightly. No, I'm not kidding. On the contrary, only you can accomplish this. The reason is very simple, because they all have to drive B-class mechas. Facts have proved that when a strong person drives a low-level mecha, their combat effectiveness may not be as good, but their mobility can be increased through thrusters and instantaneous explosive power. You drive a group of A-class mechas over there, and people will be on high alert, but you won't be able to achieve the effect of a surprise attack. Moreover, with high mobility, it will be easy to complete various cutting actions. Therefore, it is most suitable for you to lead the team as you are the most proficient in B-class mechas and can skillfully reverse the middle and even high level of the heavenly rank. After all, your combat effectiveness in driving the B-class has been confirmed to be the strongest among all people, and your precise control, judgment, and past combat record also prove that you are capable of this important task. Li Yu pondered. Indeed, although the B-class mecha is far inferior to the A-class in terms of strength, if it is controlled by a master of the heavenly position, it is indeed more maneuverable. After all, the difference in tonnage is too small, and the total amount of divine stimulation is higher. In theory, a master of the heavenly position can also control the D-class mecha, and the maneuverability will be higher. However, the tonnage of the D-class is too different, and close combat has almost no lethality to high-level mechas, so there is no other advantage except speed. Moreover, the tonnage height will also affect the unit output of the mecha, limiting the performance of the driver. A mecha like the B-class of 130 to 40 meters is just right. It can crush most of the B-class, and if it is controlled well, it can also have a killing effect on most of the A-class mechas. Of course, if you encounter an opponent of the A-class of 270 to 80 meters, it may be difficult. After thinking for a few seconds, Li Yu said, Commander He, if our group encounters the other side's high-level Xianwei, wouldn't the risk of damage be greater? In addition, can those people in the team still control the B-level mecha now? He Guangzi smiled and said, For this day, I have given them corresponding training in advance. The people on the list are basically mechas of the 4 common sequences. B-level mechas are easy to replace and can be easily compatible with downwards. Individual gravity gods and light gods are not rare, and they are also easy to replace. Moreover, among the teams on the wing, the middle level of the Xianwei is the limit, and at worst there are more weak high-level ones. With your strength, these are enough to complete the cutting. I have arranged these people in advance, and they are all gathering one after another. You should go as soon as possible. Li Yu nodded slightly. Well, then listen to the arrangements of the commander, He Guangzi said. Go quickly, remember to memorize the detailed deduction information in the instructions. So as not to take the wrong route at that time, Li Yu scanned the detailed route information displayed on the communicator, nodded, and left immediately. To be honest, it still feels strange to let him command Lin Wenzhong, Mu Xianli, Chen Kaiongzi, who had worked closely with him. However, in the face of the war, there is no need to waste time, just do it. After all, if the nest is overturned, how can the eggs remain intact? In the hangar, Li Yu quickly saw Lin Wenzhong, Mu Xianli, Chen Kaiongzi, Mo Chenlong, He Kaiongying, who were his superiors a few months ago, and other individual Xianwei masters who he was not familiar with but had met before. There were from the 2nd stage to the 6th stage of the Xianwei, and each of them was a master with very good technical and tactical strength in Li Yu's impression. Especially Lin Wenzhong's planetary collapse cannon left a deep impression on him. If he relied on the Gaia Mecha, he could also launch similar tricks, but to achieve the strength of Lin Wenzhong, he was still slightly inferior. Because the mission time was very short, Li Yu arrived and said quickly, Everyone was once my superior and the instructor who taught me. I am very happy to meet you today on this special occasion. I will not say much about greetings. Before executing this cutting operation, I have said in advance that since I am the commander, the superiors should not have any rank grudges. If you think that I am just a young man and not qualified to command you, and your actions are delayed, it will be a taboo in the march. Immediately, Mu Xianli laughed. Captain Li, we are all professional mecha masters. We still have this ethics, don't worry. Li Yu looked around at everyone and found that except Tang Yiren's face, no one else had a strange expression. He immediately shouted, Then now, give everyone 10 seconds to complete the startup, set off. With an order, all the Xianwei strongmen quickly stood up and went to the B-level mechas that He Guangzi had arranged for them in advance. Li Yu walked towards the Xianwang mecha as usual and started it quickly. 1 minute later, A total of 40 B-class divine mechas with a length of 135 meters 144 m flew out at high speed. The starship they flew out of was very close to the central axis, only 7 or 8 light seconds away. Now it takes about 7 or 8 minutes to go around the side wing and approach the target location. Halfway through the flight, it was soon seen that the central axis had already started to engage in close combat. Obviously, during the half hour that Li Yu rested, the central axis's divine energy cannon's large-scale, full army bombardment stage had ended. Now the test was the front longitudinal suppression capabilities of each small square formation and small team, as well as the commander's micromanagement. During the flight, Li Yu privately chatted with Chen Kaiyongzi. Instructor Chen, I have seen the hidden confidential information in the instructions. Can your current strength reach the 5th stage of the heavenly rank? Chen Kaiyongzi was surprised. Aren't you a level 7 authority? How can you see my hidden confidential information? Li Yu shook his head and said, actually, I have updated to level 8 authority before. Chen Kaiyongzi smiled in surprise and said, well, I thought I was already gifted. I broke through from the upper level to the 3rd stage of the heavenly rank in one breath. And I also have the strength of the 5th stage. It was already amazing enough, but I still pale in front of you, Li Yu said. I'm more curious about how Instructor Chen did it. Chen Kaiyongzi said mysteriously, I'll tell you in detail after this battle is over. Li Yu nodded, and privately chatted with other heavenly rank powerhouses to briefly communicate the situation of the mission and confirm whether they all understood it clearly. When asked about He Kaiyongyi said, Li Yi, I will leave the team to perform another top-secret mission later, and I will need you to cover for me then. Hearing this, Li Yu glanced at the line of secret mission activation password in the corner of the communicator, and his heart moved slightly. This mission instruction just changed, but before, there was no change in the password. Li asked, is your top-secret mission related to the 5th phase plan? Tell me your password. Chapter 255 Breaking In. He Kaiyongyi said, the password is, Beachwind River, collect flower dew, giant god comes out of Long Yin. Li Yu nodded and said, okay, no problem, this password seems to have a special meaning and contains information, but Li Yu did not receive any other requests, so he did not think deeply about it. He Kaiyongyi said, when the melee starts later, please help me cover. If anyone asks, just say that I was accidentally dispersed by the enemy's mecha group. Li Yu touched his chin and said, do you have a way to mix into their friend or foe identification frequency? He Kaiyongyi, this is exactly why the old man asked me to carry out this mission. As for returning to the team, I will have my own way when the time comes, so you don't have to worry. I will explain this specific departure signal to you in advance, okay? After a pause, He Kaiyongyi said, by the way, let me ask you a question. Are you still in the upper stage now? How did you become so strong? He Kaiyongyi remembered what Guangzi told her before, that Li Yu would become a heavenly rank within 5 years. Now it is more than 5 years. Judging from the previous few battle records, he can beat most of the heavenly rank. She had thought that Li Yu was a natural hero to fight against Zhao Menghao, but after seeing his actual performance on the battlefield, it seemed that Li Yu was far more than that. This made He Kaiyongyi feel lucky. Fortunately, she had not shown much contempt to Li Yu before. Li Yu said, yes, my path is quite unique, but in terms of stage, I am indeed still in a higher position. He Kaiyongyi understood immediately and said, do you plan to condense the divine genes required for the 3 cores before the heavenly position? This is really perseverance. Li Yu did not elaborate, but turned to communicate with other team members to determine the details of the mission. Since this battle is a fast maneuver, it does not require too many formation operations. He only needs to be the charge head like the head of the goose, leading the team to form a cone formation for fast charge and cutting. Therefore, the details of communication are mainly several root nodes and key command signals. As for the combat mentality, the handling of various emergency situations, etc., everyone is a veteran on the battlefield in this regard, which saves him a lot of command effort. In fact, he only needs to be a good charge head and not let the formation mess up to achieve the goal. After some instructions, the team had bypassed their own rear vertical line, came to the edge, and began to fly towards the side wing phalanx of the Star Clan. There were more than 100 machine phalanxes in the front side wing phalanx. Among them, every 100 mecha phalanxes would be separated by thousands of kilometers, and the second horizontal line phalanx in the back would fill in the gaps in the upper phalanx. In this way, 3 overlapping horizontal lines were presented. Then, above and below each phalanx, there were corresponding phalanxes, forming a 3-dimensional phalanx with vertical and horizontal directions. After all, this is space, and the upper side can be down, and the lower side can be up, and the direction can be reversed at any time. It is obviously impossible to form an intercepting military line with a plane. If the difference in military strength exceeds 3 times, the side with higher military strength can completely attack from the side or the upper and lower positions, forming a flooding Genshin impact effect. This is the phalanx and the lateral wing position on both sides, and it has just formed a direct close combat stage in the central axis area. The distance between the central axis area and the lateral wings on both sides has actually exceeded 100,000 kilometers, which is quite amazing. Therefore, the vanguard troops of the central axis had already engaged the human army, and when Li Yi and his group came to the side wing, the 2 wings were still conducting small-scale exploratory attacks. After all, the central axis area had been occupied by humans in advance, and a large number of squares were directly arranged, constantly bombarding the divine energy cannons, severely cutting a wave of opponents. Therefore, the 2 flanks of the alien square compressed the distance between the squares like a wave of accumulation. At this moment, when Li Yi and his group arrived, they saw the scene of the first few squares on the flanks and the small-scale impact and melee of the human side. In the endless vacuum, hundreds of mechas over 80 meters long were fighting in close combat, forming a torrent of several colors, repeatedly crushing and tearing back and forth. Because it was a space battle, there was no sound transmission from the outside world. But the people who turned on the battle public frequency could clearly hear all kinds of roars, panting, pain and other sounds. From time to time, violent flames could be seen flashing above, which was the rear square bombarding the divine energy cannon on the opposite side. Some divine energy cannons will also fall into the battle group of hundreds of mechas, exploding with shining divine flames. Around them, there are also broken limbs and debris of divine mechas, various bionic parts in the form of threads, bundles, and blocks. There are also a few heads that are damaged, and they have to be ejected from the driver's seat and try to fly out of the battle group's insertion cabin. But in a battlefield of this intensity, whether the mecha master with damaged head can survive is purely a matter of fate. Next, when the phalanxes in the rear gather together, the intensity of the battle should be further increased, and the whole line will be in close combat. Li Yu glanced at it and saw the overall strength of the alien phalanx. It was indeed as Guang Zhi said. Except for the leader who was at the beginning of the heavenly stage, there were a few middle stage and edge phalanxes. There were indeed not many strong people. It seems that the strong people at the middle or high stage of the heavenly stage have gathered at the central axis. Even if they squeezed to the flanks, they were in the middle area and did not appear at the edge. Li Yu knew that Guangzi had either figured out the other side's deployment of troops by relying on the holographic deduction equipment, a space warfare weapon, or he had successfully planted an insider and figured out the detailed distribution of the other side's strongmen. His thoughts flashed, and he seized the opportunity and said, "It seems that we came at the right time, and the other side's flank phalanx has not yet completely squeezed up. Now, let's burst out with all our strength and wash away their first wave of flank forces first. Now, launch with all our strength." As soon as the voice fell, the 30 B-class mechas that had already arrived at the flank battlefield suddenly flashed with flames behind them. In an instant, the flames behind these seemingly ordinary mechas were connected into a group. Because the instantaneous flames were so amazing, it was like a supergiant divine energy cannon hitting here, which made all the mechas in the duel stun for a moment, and quickly strengthened the excitation of the divine shield to avoid being hit by this unknown range attack. Immediately afterwards, these 30 mechas formed a cone-shaped formation like a stream of light and suddenly shut out. In the blink of an eye, these elite mecha masters, who were generally from the middle stage of the heavenly rank and a few from the initial stage, suddenly showed their long-hidden fangs, burst out with an amazing speed that was impossible for a regular B-level, and instantly killed into the outer square formation of the aliens. The first 3 were Li Yu's Heavenly King Mecha, Mu Xianli's B-level Crazy Thunder Mecha, and Lin Wendong's B-level Mars Mecha. As the best of the middle stage of the heavenly rank, Mu Xianli and Lin Wendong were second only to Zhao Menghao, a middle stage that Li Yi had seen. With their outstanding strength, they were naturally arranged by Li Yi to the cutting edge as powerful attackers. Even if they were replaced with B-level mechas, their strength was unquestionable. In the flash of flames, the Heavenly King Mecha had already met the first A-level initial stage that tried to intercept it. Cut. With one knife, it directly bypassed the opponent's divine weapon, cut into its divine shield, cut the opponent's forehead, and easily cut it in half like cutting a piece of paper. Seeing this, the morale of the crowd was greatly boosted. Mu Xianli even yelled, "Kill!" The other heavenly rank masters also displayed the terrifying strength that heavenly rank masters should have, and all the B-class mechas exerted the lethality comparable to that of the A-class. The flames of divine energy flickered on the divine weapons one by one. For a moment, it was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, killing the side formation and causing chaos. In a blink of an eye, they killed through the first 100 machine formation and continued to kill in the direction of the alien's flank. Chapter 256 Brewing. Accompanied by waves of violent tearing divine vibrations, Li Yu frequently used the subtle force-generating skills to easily break through the defense of one A-class mecha after another. In the blink of an eye, 300 machine square formations were torn apart, completely disrupting their formation. Li Yu accurately followed a route and target in the command information, and each square formation chose a tricky direction to break in. Moreover, every time he would kill the opponent's A-class middle and initial stage strongmen, successfully creating a chaotic situation where the square formation lacked on-site command. In this way, the results of the battle were remarkable. The human side's flank legion also took advantage of the opponent's lack of combat power and the opportunity of the rear phalanx to quickly make up. And because of Li Guangzi's advanced dispatch, the flank battle line was also advancing rapidly. In just 5 minutes, most of the chaotic front mecha corps was engulfed, and they quickly gained an advantage by fighting one with more than one. However, the powerful tearing action of Li Yu's elite battle group obviously also triggered the idea of the alien commander, and quickly dispatched a strong man of the high level of the heavenly position to suppress it. Just a few minutes later, when Li Yu and his men were about to enter the fifth wing formation, 3 mechas of over 250 meters in length, which were obviously silver level, flew over. They were still tens of thousands of meters away, and suddenly fired divine energy cannons. Flames flashed up. 3 energy beams of 100 meters thick, comparable to the level of planetary collapse cannons, penetrated the gap between the formations and fell in front of the Heavenly King Mecha in the blink of an eye. These 3 cannons found the only gap that spanned tens of thousands of meters without damage. At this juncture, Li Yu could easily control the Heavenly King Mecha to dodge, and he was not afraid that his teammates behind him would be shot. Because their formation was about 35,688 cones, or umbrellas. There were 5 rows in total. The first row was Li Yi, Lin Guotao, and Mu Xianli, 3 strong men who were comparable to the conventional high level. The second row was Chen Kaiongzi, He Kaiongying, Mo Chenlong and other 4 or 5 level strengths, a total of 5 people. The rest were arranged in this way according to strength. Behind the King of Heaven Mecha, there was actually an empty space, and the teammates were all on the side to form a formation for lateral support. However, if Li Yu rashly dodged, the formation would be disordered, and the opponent's second wave of volleys would immediately break the formation, lose the advantage of charging, and fall into the vast formation of the aliens. This is the most taboo point in the charge group battle. In the cockpit, Li Yu, who was keenly aware of the opponent's dangerous backhand, shouted, "Everyone, extend the divine shield forward and open it to the maximum. While opening, be careful not to conflict with the opponent's divine shield to avoid self-disruption." Immediately, everyone's divine shields were nested layer by layer like stacking dolls. In the blink of an eye, these divine shields nested in multiple colors actually flashed a rainbow-like fluorescence, gorgeous and colorful. When the divine shields were halfway stacked, these 3 super strong energy light beams comparable to the planet-destroying cannons had already shot over and touched the outermost circle of divine shields. In an instant, flames flashed. The long night is as bright as day. Soon, the super strong defense of the 30 divine shields stacked together completely offset the divine energy cannon in front. The violent impact force was continuously transmitted through the dissipated divine energy, and the mechas were in chaos in midair. After all, these were 3 attacks comparable to the planetary collapse cannon. Even Lin Guotao needed to prepare for several minutes to hit such a powerful attack. The fact that Li Yu was able to take this move without damage was indeed a result of his decision-making at the critical moment. If he had dodged, the ending would not be like this. Li Yu quickly said, "Ignore these 3 silver mechas. Let's rush into the enemy's formation. They will be afraid of using weapons and will naturally not use such a big move again. Even if they really use it, their people will be the first to take the blame. We have enough buffer space. As soon as the voice fell, Li Yi had already controlled the Xianwang Mecha to speed up and rushed into the front formation. Seeing this, everyone knew what was going on and how to deal with it, and controlled the mechas to speed up. Flames flashed faster and faster, and soon the cone formation chiseled in like a knife, killing the B-class mechas on the periphery of the formation one after another. Moreover, when the divine energy cannon shot from below, it also missed, brushed the tail end of the formation and flew out, sweeping the formation behind the aliens, and hit several alien mechas. Looking back from the cockpit, Mu Xianli laughed. I recognize these 3 silver mechas. They are all at the 7th stage and close to the 8th stage. They are quite powerful and have mastered the ultimate moves of the heavenly position. I didn't expect them to be so careless and fire in this environment, Lin Wendong said lightly. Talk less and kill more enemies. The enemy is approaching. The average strength of the formation that was killed this time was much stronger. The progress of the fight began to slow down, and the approach of the 3 high-level heavenly positions also began to create a lot of pressure for everyone. From the public channel, Li Yi had heard some impatient breathing frequencies and knew that someone was beginning to get anxious. Although they still successfully completed the task of tearing the opponent's flank phalanx, if the impact speed drops more and more, the danger they face will also increase significantly. In this regard, Li Yi has no hard way to deal with it, and can only continuously improve the progress of breaking the enemy in front. Moreover, he also used some cleverness this time. He did not kill all the opponents, but beat the mechas blocking in front into a residual blood state, threw them to the side, and let the friends deal with them. In this way, he can save more strength. Secondly, these half-crippled mechas will also cause attack interference to their own friends, and they cannot squeeze them with all their strength. In this way, although their tearing speed is still slower, the slower speed is significantly reduced, and a lot of effort is saved, and the battle situation is improved again. Of course, this kind of operation can only be completed by people like him who are far superior to all opponents in fighting and have extremely strong brain power. If it is replaced by any leader, it is estimated that even the strongest elite Xianwei will be trapped in a quagmire when controlling the B-level mecha at this time. However, after a while, 3 Xianwei high levels also successfully squeezed Li Yi's position and began to intercept from the front. In the blink of an eye, the 2 sides exchanged several moves while moving forward, and the divine weapons collided violently. Sparks splashed and halos of light appeared. On the public channel, Mu Xianli said in a deep voice, Li Yi, this won't work. These 3 guys are trying their best to intercept us, and our speed is decreasing again and again. We have to do something, otherwise we will be dragged into the quagmire sooner or later. Lin Wendong, Li Yi, give me some opportunities, let me prepare my ultimate move to blast a path, and we will speed up and rush out. How about that? Li Yi made a prompt decision. In that case, let me take care of your opponent. Is 1 minute enough? Enough. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 The Traitor. As he spoke, Li Yi began to use the 3.1 burst skill. The special characteristics were also added to the slashing attack towards the opponent. He used these 2 tricks at the bottom of the box in one breath. With one slash, the blade light directly tore the space, tearing out a deep and dark space crack, and slashed at the opponent in front of him out of thin air. The alien silver-level mecha in front of him obviously also noticed the ferocity of this slash, and the interception action slowed down. The blade light continued to pass backwards. Li Yi had long anticipated the opponent's actions when the blade light flew out, and added the power of the explosive spiral. The moment it brushed past the silver-level mecha, it exploded violently. In an instant, countless tiny fragments of space flew away like a rainstorm, slashing towards the sideways alien silver level. The silver level external divine shield had just emerged when it was quickly broken by the space fragments like a locust bite, and continued to tear inward. Immediately afterwards, the Heavenly King Mecha accelerated and led the team forward, slashing at the opponent next door who was responsible for intercepting the Mars Mecha. The face of this mecha is not the common style of the human side. It has a strange 30-degree smile under the wide armor, and its moves are like ghosts. The length of the mecha is 257 meters, and its strength is probably the strongest among the 3 high-level heavenly ranks. The Heavenly King mecha slashed down with a sword, and it collided with the opponent's B-level armor-piercing knife, and then found something wrong. This sword seemed to hide a ball of cotton, and it was powerless. Even the special characteristics could not be broken instantly, and a large amount of divinity was offset. In the cockpit, Li Yu quickly checked the information in his mind and quickly captured a trace of strange data from these detection information. Virtualized heavenly rank characteristics? No, it should be semi-virtualized, and it actually exists in substance. His heart moved slightly, and the special characteristics turned into friction characteristics. Then, cut again. The friction characteristic is not the main characteristic of the Heavenly King mecha, but a characteristic he achieved with the help of the conversion of divine energy, and the strength is average. But he added the sticky word skill to strength in this move, and soon he cut out a sense of touch. The semi-virtualization of this ghost mecha only showed its mystery for a moment, and was instantly cracked by Li Yi. At this moment, as Li Yi deepened his control of divinity and fighting skills, his understanding of various characteristics deepened, and many moves were no longer threatening to him. However, even if he cracked the opponent's characteristics, the difference in tonnage was still very large. The opponent who was caught off guard by the space fragment just now also seized the opportunity and killed again. For a while, Li Yu could only control the Xianwang mecha to maintain the state of flying forward, and keep the speed from being suppressed too much, so as not to be suppressed too much in this minute. At the same time, just as Li Yu and his group fell into the quagmire and the rhythm of the battle was stuck, on the central axis and the sideline, the human side took advantage of the advantages they had previously gained and quickly advanced forward. The remaining 14 gold masters of the aliens, as well as several powerful silver masters, gathered around the large starship diagonally above the central axis and fell into heated discussion. The ancestors haven't arrived yet, and the all-out war we launched without authorization has become unstable. In my opinion, we should not be afraid of our own lives now, and we must launch an enemy-breaking operation launched by our golden strongmen. Heng Tulong, whose mecha was damaged but in good physical condition, shouted loudly in the starship. Because the aliens have too high a proportion of alien god sequences, each has unique divine characteristics and low compatibility. Especially for the S-class, even they rarely find a suitable one. Therefore, before waiting for the right S-class mecha to arrive, he can only try to encourage his teammates to launch a more intense battle. Of course, if there is really no corresponding S-class, he can only use the A-class backup for the time being. He was quickly defeated by Lin Jianlong, and felt that he had lost face and was so embarrassed that he wanted to kill humans as soon as possible. As a war advocate, he naturally wanted to find ways to destroy humans as soon as possible. When everyone heard this, they had their own thoughts. They were a little speechless when they saw the superior forces being beaten into such a mess. They thought they would definitely win in terms of numbers. Unexpectedly, the human army's wisdom seemed to have opened the eyes of heaven, and they could always predict their corresponding formation activities in advance and make countermeasures in advance. They didn't just lose on the central axis. Now looking at their own global map, it was obvious that the battle on the sidelines was also urgent. Wu Zhibo smiled faintly at this time. The next battle will most likely be a protracted war. If you want to quickly wipe out the human race, I'm afraid you won't have a chance until our ancestor arrives. Facts have proved that since Lin Jianlong is able to break out of the collapse trick launched by several of our golden warriors, it means that he already has the ability to compete with our ancestor. We have already lost the best chance to wipe out the human race. Heng Tulong, I think you should keep quiet. You are a piece of trash who was defeated by the human race. How dare you shout here? Heng Tulong immediately cursed. You said that Lin Jianlong's strength is comparable to that of our ancestor. With this kind of strength, if I hadn't taken the blame for you, who knows who would have been killed? Wu Zhibo smiled and said, I don't think so. If he deals with me first, I will definitely be able to withstand the first 10 moves. Heng Tulong sneered. You, Wu Zhibo, only have a certain status here because of your collapse trick. If we really fight, I will let you win with one hand. Wu Zhibo narrowed his eyes. Why, do you want to try? Seeing the atmosphere between the two sides getting more and more heated. The others all looked indifferent. Obviously, everyone could see that the two were actually acting. It was unlikely that they would really fight. After a pause, Hang Zilong said, "At this point, the theory of quick defeat and quick victory is not advisable. Moreover, our multiple deployments have been seen through by the opponent, which shows that the existence of a traitor is basically a high probability fact. Moreover, among our group of people, there must be a traitor. I have just contacted the ancestor, and he said he will arrive in 15 minutes. By then, when his divine eyes are open, it will be clear who is lying and who is telling the truth. This traitor who provides intelligence to humans. I can give you a time. If you turn yourself in now, I can make the decision and spare your life. Otherwise, when the ancestor arrives, your life of thousands of years will be gone in one day." There was silence on the scene. Wu Zhibo smiled and said, "Hang Zilong, your assurance is too hollow. How could there be a traitor who is willing to come out like this? I think it would be better if Wu Zhibo, searched every gold and silver to confirm whether they have any human communicators," Hang Zilong said slowly. "In the face of a powerful enemy, this method is not advisable. If the gold masters leave the cabin like this, and humans come back to attack us, we will be even more powerless this time," Wu Zhibo said. "No, how about lining up one by one?" Chapter 258 Kill Through. While Wu Zhibo was preparing to search for the traitors one by one, He Guangzi, who was at the rear command post of the human race, also received the news. "Are you finally going to investigate the traitor? Are you doing it for real or just pretending?" His eyes moved slightly. It is true that among the gold and silver masters of the Star Clan, there are indeed traitors planted by the human side. These traitors were arranged by Lin Jianlong, and among the human side, only He Guangzi knew about this. But He Guangzi didn't know who the traitor of the gold master was. He only knew who the traitor arranged among the silver masters was, and all the information was obtained by contacting this person. It is not easy to plant this traitor at such a high level. It is necessary to have special characteristics and abilities to replace them and maintain them quietly. Moreover, the risk of exposure is also very high. Naturally, without hesitation, he immediately contacted Lin Jianlong, who was suppressing the front line, and quietly said, "General Lin, the investigation of the traitor has begun." "What do you mean?" Lin Jianlong nodded slightly. "It doesn't matter. I have roughly received the situation. You just need to handle your own affairs normally." He Guangzi's eyes moved slightly, and he said thoughtfully, "General Lin, that Wu Zhibo, could it be the traitor you arranged?" Lin Jianlong smiled and said, "You will know when the time comes. If the news is intercepted in advance and they take action in advance, the plan cannot be carried out smoothly." He Guangzi's eyes moved slightly, and he remembered the top-secret report uploaded by Zhang Shengfeng before, and immediately said, "General Lin means that there may be a situation where the strongest of our side has been mixed with the resurrectors." Lin Jianlong said, "Almost, but the situation is a little more complicated. I am also on guard against the resurrectors in some things, so even our strongest people don't know all kinds of intelligence. You just need to do a good job of the current command work. In the 5th stage, you will naturally receive the launch signal when it is almost time," He Guangzi said. "I understand, then everything will be left to General Lin," Lin Jianlong said. "Also, don't always give combat missions to Li Yi. You seem to rely too much on Li Yi's strength. Don't waste such a good seedling." He Guangzi sighed. "I can't do anything, General Lin. The total force is insufficient. We can only use real pioneers, people who can really fight their way out in close combat. We humans really don't have many such talents. Our gene iteration plan is still too slow. Time is running out. Foreign enemies are coming in waves, and now there is another disaster hanging over our heads. Can we really survive the chaos in the coming rhythm and pace?" Hearing this, Lin Jianlong was silent for a moment, and then he said, "Although human power is limited and the universe is infinite, our upper limit is always unknown. Don't set limits for yourself, Laohui. Break through to the strongest as soon as possible. If you suppress it for too long, it will easily fail." At the same time, the Xianwang Mecha finally withstood the joint attack of the 2 silver mechas, and delayed time while moving forward, and finally delayed for a minute. In this unprecedented high-intensity battle, Li Yi soon felt the restlessness of the 42nd divine gene in his body. Sure enough, the real war. The dilemma of facing real death at any time, the cold and lonely space, the surging divine flames everywhere around, and the various divine energy cannons everywhere, all stimulated his whole body state. In this state, the divine gene and the divinity inside the Xianwang Mecha are infinitely matched. It is very similar to the high penetration state of divinity that Li Yi felt in the ruins of the earth. At this moment, he was neither surprised nor happy. He was in a state infinitely close to the self-consciousness, but he was stuck and not fully entered. Because once he fully enters, the consumption of brain power will suddenly break through a limit, allowing him to enter a state similar to burning. Although it is very fierce, the loss is also great. On the contrary, this state of buffing can enable him to maintain a sufficiently good balance. Moreover, it also keeps his soul and body in an extremely active state, constantly digesting the divine stimulation fed back by the Xiangwang Mecha. It lasted for a minute. It's done, Li Yi, shall we shoot? Shoot. The shooting direction should still follow the original route, okay? After a quick exchange, Lin Wendong controlled the Mars mech, jumped out from behind the Heavenly King mech, and fired a shot. It was his ultimate move, the planetary destruction cannon. The red light flashed, gushed out violently, and turned into a super cannon with a caliber of hundreds of meters, which suddenly cut along the front of the Heavenly King mech. The two silver mechas in front knew that they could not take this move at close range, and immediately vibrated a divine energy cannon outside their bodies while dodging to both sides. And Lin Wendong's move obviously did not intend to blast the two mechas apart, but just to clear the way, and did not adjust the shooting direction, just kept the original direction, and let the energy cannon shoot straight out. In an instant, the parts of several B-class mechas in the surrounding squares in front that were not able to dodge were immediately shattered by the red energy cannon. And this is not over yet, it is still continuing to bombard from behind. As they passed by, they destroyed more than a dozen B-class and C-class mechas with overwhelming force and flashing flames. Many of them were damaged by the shoulder armor, knee armor and other parts, burning red and emitting heat. Just like that, a wide gap was suddenly blasted out in front. Everyone had already received Li Yi's instructions. At the moment when Lin Wendong made a move, the flames of the thrusters behind him suddenly flashed and advanced rapidly. Except for He Kaiyongying, who took advantage of the chaos to change the frequency of enemy identification and entered the alien mecha formation, all the 30 mechas completed rapid acceleration and leaped suddenly along the passage. In a moment, they broke away from the fifth formation, successfully completed the Turing task, and avoided the interception of the 3 silver mechas, and successfully killed into the sixth formation. The 3 silver mechas had no choice but to continue chasing. However, now they have to go around to the front to intercept, which obviously takes a lot of time. Because the dense alien mechas around them obviously also caused a clear barrier for them. If they just chased behind, the delay effect would obviously be much worse, and they would not be able to take advantage of the power of the phalanx. In this way, Li Yi and his group had enough time to buffer. During this period, as long as the wing phalanx of the human side could successfully kill up and take advantage of the isolation advantage created by Li Yi and his group, and continue to snowball, the victory on the wing front would basically belong to the human side. With the help of Lin Wendong's cannon, the group quickly opened up the situation and successfully killed the 6th and 7th phalanxes. It's almost done. Our activities on the wing should have reached the limit. We have to retreat before other silver warriors of the aliens come to help. Li Yi glanced at the phalanx group fighting in the distance, knowing that he should stop while he was ahead. Without hesitation, he gave an order and began to turn, preparing to kill back to the wing from the phalanx below. Chapter 259 Infiltration. While Li Yi's team quickly killed their way back to the human camp, He Kaiyongying also successfully mixed into the alien camp. Her mecha happened to be the alien god sequence mecha. Now that she changed the enemy identification frequency, she quickly flashed into other chaotic square arrays, just like water entering the sea and trees hiding in the forest. Of course, although this process is very smooth, it is actually prepared for a long time in advance, and it can only be done when many conditions are gathered. First of all, of course, it is the alien square array that was killed and confused by them at this moment. Secondly, the Moth Mecha is also the only alien god sequence mecha in Li Yi's assault team this time. It is the B-level mecha that Yi Guangzi secretly made He Kaiyongying master for this day. This is also consistent with He Kaiyongying's original strongest plan, and it is the foundation for her to focus on condensing the third nucleus. With the color control and psychedelic characteristics of the Moth Mecha, she was able to get rid of the alien mechas who were staring at her at the moment of mixing into the square array. Then, by quickly interweaving several times and changing the enemy identification frequency synchronously, she can successfully mix in. This I frequency originally required extremely high authority to change, but since humans have successfully planted silver or even gold level insiders in the Star Clan, they can naturally quietly release some of their own camp's identification frequencies. However, this move also has risks, because the aliens also have the main station data center to complete the monitoring. Fortunately, this main station data center is essentially also a part of the divine technology. Although the human side has not cracked it, as long as the silver-level strongman who issued the authority has not been exposed, she is safe. Combined with such a combination of conditions, she was able to successfully blend in at this moment. At this moment, she controlled the Moth Mecha, pretending to be seriously injured all the way, flew out of the rear of the battle line, and came to the alien starship, ready to blend in. The Moth Mecha quickly entered the import and export order of the alien starship and successfully entered the other cabin. He Kaiyonging's spirit was also highly tense at this moment. According to the intelligence given by He Guangzi before, the most dangerous step is the next step. Entering the cabin only requires recognizing the password, while leaving the insertion cabin is a key moment to test whether her disguise and the alien language she learned before can deceive the opponent. There are enough aliens with strong celestial powers, and they are not familiar with each other. It is normal to see one or two strangers. But even so, there is a possibility that the perceptive will detect the abnormality. The Moth Mecha docked and landed on a circular apron marked with alien language. In the cockpit, He Kaiyonging took a deep breath and began to take off the human common driving suit, revealing her white body. Then, she quickly changed into the alien driving suit prepared in advance. She threw off her combat boots and changed into the black leather military boots commonly used by aliens. These things are often seized by humans, so they are not difficult to obtain. Then, she put on a pre-prepared pointed narrow-eyed hood, took out a series of makeup and disguise tools, and quickly painted and modified her face. Although she has color control and psychedelic properties, she can make her face look exactly the same as the Star Tribe. But it is better to take two approaches and double cover up than to change the characteristics so that it is easy for high-level masters to see the clues. These are the actions she prepared in advance, and she completed everything quickly in just 2 minutes. Click. The insertion cabin popped out, and He Kaiyonging observed the actions of the other divine mecha pilots who were forced to withdraw due to damage to other mechas, and also jumped down by imitating their actions. On the side, a medium-sized female from the Star Clan who looked like a medical soldier ran over and asked humbly, "Sir, do you need a medical cabin for you?" He Kaiyonging replied in a strange language, "No, this is my first time to arrive at your ship. Lead me to the command cabin. I have important secrets to report." Her target, without a doubt, is this command ship. As long as this command ship can be destroyed, the alien command system will be in chaos, and the human side can take advantage of the situation to further erode the divine mecha core of the Star Clan. "Okay, sir, I will lead you now." The Star Clan woman did not doubt him. After all, the aura of a strong man exuded by He Kaiyonging is very strong. Moreover, the aliens and humans have different strict authority management systems. In the Star Clan, the strong are everything, and the strong can be exempted from all kinds of rules. He Kaiyonging breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that no one has noticed a strong person like her. That's right. According to the strength classification here, she is already a strong person at the peak of bronze. Among the wounded who left the starship this time, she is already the strongest. Next, it depends on whether she can successfully reach the command cabin and complete the blasting of the command cabin. She walked forward and soon left the surrounding area. "Sir, go straight on this road to the command cabin. The area behind is not something I can enter," the medical soldier explained. "I know, go ahead." He Kaiyonging left the medical soldier aside, recalled the command cabin entry code she had obtained before, and began to enter it. This is also where the aliens' technology is inferior to that of humans. The aliens' technological level focuses mainly on cracking the legacy of divine civilization. On the contrary, those methods such as face recognition and fingerprint recognition have not been developed too much. However, this does not mean that the starships in the Star Clan have no protective measures. Those key areas generally have soul recognition devices. And this is the difficulty that He Kaiyonging needs to focus on breaking through next. At this moment, there are still 10 minutes before the ancestors of the Star Clan arrive at the battlefield. At the same time, Earth, Shanghai. The huge body of the Tanya Mecha swept over a 600-meter high spire, causing a huge airflow whistling. For a moment, ordinary humans under the spire were looking up at the sky and taking photos to post on social media. The Tao Mecha slowly stopped in the air and made a huge voice that could be heard throughout the city. To all human beings on Earth, I am Zhang Shangfeng, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of Human Mecha. It has been detected that aliens have infiltrated this city, and I have confirmed the target. To prevent being affected by the battle that may occur at any time, please evacuate as soon as possible. Next, the Mecha teams of various military departments will assist all citizens to leave safely. Please do not cause a commotion and try to leave the city calmly and orderly. If there is any subsequent property loss, we will fully compensate and do a good job of repairing it. Please leave as soon as possible. Leave as soon as possible. In the cockpit, Zhang Shangfeng's eyes were sharp, always staring at the 600-meter spire. The people in the surrounding area were obviously not experiencing this kind of thing for the first time, so there was not much commotion. As the 20-meter-long mechas flew into the city, the people working and living in the city also quickly cooperated and left the surrounding environment. Only the 600-meter-long spire remained silent. Seeing this, Zhang Shangfeng's eyes turned cold. Sure enough, he was right. He was indeed hiding here. Chapter 260 Beheading. The way back for Li Yi and his men was not easy. The three silver mechas finally caught up with them when they left the alien formation. Obviously, they also understood that this was the weakest time for Li Yi and his assault team. After several minutes of high-intensity combat, their overall endurance and attention would inevitably decline. Now that they had left their formation and returned to the human camp, Li Yi's assault team would lose their cover and be completely exposed. Therefore, the three silver mechas were also rapidly condensing divine energy cannons and firing at the assault team. Fortunately, the amount they condensed this time was not at the level of the planetary collapse cannon, which was relatively normal. Everyone controlled the mechas to condense the divine shield, maintain the accelerated state, and evacuated quickly. Now that they had left the alien formation and were about to enter the rear end of the human army formation, the speed and mobility brought by the heavenly strong man driving the B-level mecha were brought into play. Li Yi used the detection system to continuously observe the situation in the rear and led the team to dodge according to the prediction. In a moment, the three silver mechas were left far behind and could only continuously fire divine energy cannons. However, firing at such a long distance obviously could not do anything to the people led by Li Yi. During the flight, Mu Xianlei asked, Li Yi, why don't we kill a few more square formations before retreating? Less than 10 minutes of assault time, isn't that too little? Li Yi understood what Mu Xianlei meant. After all, 10 minutes was not their limit. Even if they fought at a high intensity, they could hold on for 20 minutes before returning. In this regard, he explained, we have completed the set goal. If we continue to kill, it will inevitably attract more silver strongmen to come and surround and kill. Also, according to the mission requirements, we must return as soon as possible, because a huge change will happen later. If we continue to move in the enemy's square, I am afraid there will be a crisis of the whole group being destroyed. We are not consumables. There are other combat missions to complete later, Mu Xianlei said with a smile. What consumable or not, I just want to kill more people. I have to say that it is much more comfortable to cooperate with you than with Lao Lin. It was very satisfying to kill just now, Lin went on. On the public channel, everyone smiled easily. They have basically flown back to the area controlled by humans and are considered safe. Chen Kaiyongzi suddenly said, everyone, the situation is not easy at the moment. The three silver mechas have already entered our other military formations. This is the trouble we have caused. How about we solve it and then return to the rear? Li Yi also noticed the three silver mechas that were rushing around. With a flash of thought, he said, we still have follow-up tasks. Try to deal with these three big guys within 3 minutes. Everyone, form a free formation. Although it was a free formation, Li Yi still briefly mentioned the division of labor among everyone. Mu Xianlei shouted, that's how it should be done. Kill. As soon as the voice fell, the 29 mechas were divided into 3 steel torrents and rushed towards the 3 silver mechas. The target of the Xianwang Mecha was the strongest one among the silver mechas. It had the semi-virtual characteristics and was quite powerful, enough to be comparable to the most Hunquang Ice Lizard Mecha that Li Yi had seen. In fact, in some special combat situations, the combat effect it exerted was even stronger. Behind him followed Chen Kaiyongzi's 143-meter-long moat mech, which had been upgraded to B level, and 8 other Xianwei masters of junior and middle level strength. They were considered surprise troops in this local battlefield, and had a great impact on the battle formation. With such a two-way charge, the surrounding miscellaneous soldiers were soon forced to retreat. In a floating remnant, the Heavenly King swung a sword across the sky, sticking to the blade of the silver mech with a force of friction characteristics, and shook the silver mech out of its semi-virtual state with a millimeter-level force. On the side, the Moth mech flashed by silently, holding a B-level armor-piercing sword and stabbed lightly, steadily piercing the chest of the silver mech. At the same time, the silver mech flashed a faint light and shadow of semi-virtualization again, avoiding this fierce stab. In the cockpit, Li Yu frowned slightly, and saw that the friction characteristics were still slightly insufficient to limit the Xianwu characteristics of the silver mech. His mind moved slightly, and he quickly thought of other ways. He controlled the Heavenly King mech to take this opportunity to rush forward, and the divine energy in his palm adjusted and changed, quickly adjusted to an unstable energy ball, and hit the silver mech along the palm. At the moment of contact, violent flames flashed. This attack was also the explosive divine energy that Li Yi adjusted specifically after he understood the essence of the opponent's semi-virtualization characteristics. Sure enough, with a violent explosion of this group of divine energy, the semi-virtualization of the silver mech was interrupted again, and the body, which was originally in a state like water waves, was also rapidly disappearing. Chen Kaiyongzi had no doubt that Li Yi's move could be successful. At the moment when the Heavenly King mech attacked, he also followed up and stabbed again. This time, the silver mech did not activate the semi-virtualization characteristics again, but waved his sword to block it. Before the sword and the sword touched, the body of the dust mech suddenly flashed and disappeared on the spot, as if its sense of existence had been lost. The silver mech's blade hit the air, and its strength was exhausted, and it was about to turn around. Suddenly, the micro-dust mech suddenly appeared behind the silver mech, and stabbed the silver mech with a sword. The divine shield appeared outside the silver mech, blocking it for a moment, and the tip of the sword paused. Obviously, the power of the micro-dust mech is still much weaker. Even though its moves are good, its power is still much worse than that of a freak like Li Yi. But at this point, it is enough for Li Yi. He controlled the Heavenly King mech to get close, activated the micro-level power, and slashed down suddenly. In an instant, the sword tip flashed with dazzling divine light, and it slashed from the front of the silver mech to the back. At the same time, with Zhang Shengfang's instructions and the assistance of the artificial mecha team, the people around the city gradually cleared out. This 600-meter spire is getting quieter and quieter. At this time, a C-class mecha slowly approached and sent a message. General Zhang, the personnel have been confirmed to be cleared out, and only the personnel in the Pearl Tower are left, and they have never come out. It seems that they intend to use the lives of the people in the spire as a threat. Zhang Shengfang replied, "Send me the surveillance records of the past few days." Soon, Zhang Shengfang received a bunch of surveillance video images. He swiped his fingers quickly, and quickly swiped through the surveillance records around the spire. Thinking for a moment, he said, "Confirm one last time, have the surrounding humans left?" The driver of the C-class mecha heard what Zhang Shengfang meant, and his heart changed slightly. "General Zhang, do you mean to ignore the lives of the people in the spire and attack the hidden aliens directly?" Zhang Shengfang's face was calm, and he slowly said, "There are no aliens, they are just a bunch of dummies. You should disperse as soon as possible. The next battle is not something you can get involved in." Although this driver is Zhang Shengfang's assistant, after all, he does not have enough authority and cannot understand Zhang Shengfang's deep meaning. Hearing this, he could only hold on to infinite curiosity and control the mecha to retreat. Then, the Tanya mecha took out the A-level Zanpakuto and swung it slightly. The huge sword blade tore through the air, making a sharp whistle. The surrounding tens of thousands of meters seemed to hear this humming sound that was enough to break the eardrums, and countless ordinary people who left the city had to cover their ears. Zhang Shengfang waited for 10 seconds, and seeing that the spire had not moved, he finally stopped waiting, raised his sword high, and chopped it down vertically. Swoosh! Outside the spire, a divine shield suddenly flashed, firmly holding the sword blade. Chapter 261 SS Level. The strength of this divine shield was extraordinary. When the Tanya mecha chopped it down with the sword, it did not make any progress except for flashing a fierce flame. In the cockpit, Zhang Shengfang narrowed his eyes and strengthened the activation of the cutting feature. Then, he raised his arm and thrust the sword out. The tip of the sword tore through the air and the scream had not spread far, but it had already deeply pierced the prototype divine shield. Before the circular ripples rippled, it continued to penetrate and pierce into the spire. Ch-ch-ch-chi. Accompanied by a sound of steel bars breaking, the outer shell of the spire suddenly cracked. At the same time, layers of extremely hard mecha steel shells were revealed in various cracks. The special metallic texture confirmed Zhang Shengfang's guess. Sure enough, there was a huge divine mecha hidden in this spire. Moreover, it was probably at the terrifying level of SS level, more than 600 meters high, and its strength was extraordinary. Zhang Shengfang did not hesitate and controlled the Zanpakutsu sword to continue slashing and stabbing. Swish! In a flash, he stabbed more than 10 times, trying to destroy the important parts of the divine mecha before it started. However, with each sword strike, in addition to the divine shield that continued to flicker on the surface, there was also a layer of fluid-like divinity. This move, like an absolute fluid, forcibly withstood the attack of the Tanya mecha with its strongest cutting characteristics. Seeing this, Zhang Shengfang knew that it would be fruitless to continue like this, and immediately controlled the divine mecha to launch his strongest trick. Tanya Destruction Slash. The tip of the Zanpaku sword suddenly shone with brilliant light, and the bright halo was like the rainbow light refracted under a transparent thin mirror, extremely dazzling. The moment the outer shell of the spire touched the outer periphery of the halo, it seemed to be annihilated, first turning into particles, and then disappearing into dust that was invisible to the naked eye, and then dissipating. Not only that, when it touched the outer shell of the divine mecha under the spire, it was also unobstructed, and a large number of gaps were shattered at once. However, just when the gap just appeared, the divine mecha seemed to have finally completed its startup, and the divine energy outside the body suddenly exploded. Boom! This explosion was tens of thousands of times more terrifying than the super-nuclear bomb of humans. In an instant, a huge circular shock wave was blasted out, spreading rapidly in all directions. The surrounding air was swept out instantly at an initial speed of nearly 100 times the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, the skyscrapers in the center of the entire city were razed to the ground, broken in half, and collapsed with a loud bang. The humans who had been transported hundreds of kilometers away by the artificial mecha army also soon felt this super wind force that was even more outrageous than a super typhoon. All kinds of large tonnage carriers and 20-meter class artificial mechas that they were riding on fell forward and rolled. At the same time, countless broken pieces of reinforced concrete flew over at a high speed, and under the huge force, they smashed through the outer armor of a large number of carriers and artificial mechas and penetrated inside. In just this moment, a large number of ordinary people were injured and howled in pain. Some humans who did not stay inside the carrier and could only squeeze outside were blown away by the strong wind and disappeared in the fierce wind with a roar. The first fight between the S-Class and the SS Class was so tragic that humans hundreds of kilometers away suffered such a terrible blow. The Taya mecha was in the center and was also hit by this terrifying force. He held the sword to protect the head of the driver's seat and retreated several steps. At the center of the explosion, the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, and the huge and majestic figure of this SS-class mecha was revealed. This mecha is 631 meters long, with a slender body. It is covered with a huge and heavy black armor. The armor surface is stacked with oblique moon-shaped armor plates, forming a piece of exquisite rose-shaped pattern. The face is a single eye and a single mouth, with a wide face without a nose, and the eye sockets are also oblique moon-shaped, with a thick scarlet light inside, which obscures its face. Zhang Shengfang knew that if he relied on the naked eye alone, even he could not see the visual blurring effect brought by wearing thick scarlet. Using the detection system of the Tanya mecha, he could barely judge the state of its facial contours. What is the purpose of covering the face like this? Zhang Shengfang observed the state of this noseless mecha, and his mind flashed. He slowly said, "Are you the ancestor of the Star Clan, or the real body of the resurrectionist from the 5th era?" The noseless mecha did not carry any divine weapons, and walked out of the bottom of the spire where it was originally hiding with empty hands. Then there was a burst of laughter, and it replied in hoarse human language, "Haha, is there a difference?" Zhang Shengfang's eyes flashed with understanding. Sure enough, this resurrectionist's real body is the same person as the ancestor of the Star Clan. In other words, the Star Clan was used by him to delay time and divert most of the powerful humans? But since the Enlightenment Mountain has appeared, why is the real body of the resurrectionist still unwilling to appear in person? Is it because the clone was wiped out, the strength has weakened, there is no confidence, and he would rather hide? Or does he have other purposes? Thoughts flashed through his mind, and Zhang Shengfang said, "No wonder the front line has been saying that you haven't arrived yet. It turns out that you have been hiding on Earth for a long time? Even earlier than we, the strongest ones, showed up? Just for the Enlightenment Mountain? But why didn't you do it yourself at the time?" The noseless mecha spoke with a smile. "No, my clone is naturally at the front line, and it has been there for a long time. The so-called absence is just a cover." Zhang Shengfang's heart sank. This resurrectionist has far-reaching ambitions. It seems that he wants to grab both hands and do both hard. Not only does he want the Enlightenment Mountain on Earth, he also wants to use the Star Clan to destroy mankind. He subconsciously activated the high-power quantum communicator to contact He Guangzi and Lin Zongzi at the front line. But the result made him feel depressed. Quantum communications can actually be blocked. A loud laugh came from the noseless mecha. "Ha ha ha, why do you think I have been hiding on Earth for so long, besides the Enlightenment Mountain? It is naturally because you humans have also embarked on your own technological path. How can I not spend time to learn this brand new technological spark? Now, I have blocked all quantum communications within 100 kilometers around here. Even if you want to contact the front line and inform them of this information, it is obviously impossible." The moment Zhang Shengfang discovered that the quantum communication was blocked, he immediately launched it, ignoring the mocking voice and the noseless mecha. The S-level Zanpakuto held in the hands of the Tanya mecha slashed down. The noseless mecha was also on guard against the Tanya mecha at all times, and reached out to grab it. With this grab, countless divine energies gathered in his palm, forming an extremely stable air mass, which directly touched the blade of the Zanpakuto. At the moment of contact, before the divine flame flashed, the noseless mecha had already twisted his palm, caught the Zanpakuto bare-handed, and then twisted it. The arm of the Tanya mecha was transmitted by this force, twisting slightly, and it was about to be broken directly. Feeling the load coming from the cockpit, Zhang Shengfang frowned, and the strongest move, Talia Destruction Slash, burst out. The bright halo suddenly exploded. Chapter 262 Fierce Fight. As the Talia mecha launched its strongest ultimate move, the noseless mecha retreated as if it had been electrocuted. It also released the action of twisting the Zanpaku sword. Obviously, even an SS-level mecha would be broken by the strongest characteristic combination skills. Unless the level gap is too large, there is no absolute invincibility. The Talia mecha gained the upper hand with one strike, and continued to swing the Zanpaku sword in its hand. At the same time, the halo around the tip of the sword flickered and fluctuated, and it was triggered but not released. The halo continued to spread due to the forward movement of its body. As the halo spread, the surrounding environment seemed to be stained with a layer of transparent yellow, as if the surrounding environment was stained with a murderous aura. Faced with such changes, the noseless mecha continued to retreat. Obviously, there was no other obvious physical change in the whole environment except the murderous aura. There was no hesitation at all, and there was no action to activate the divine shield to block it. Such a slippery old thief, he actually knows the power of my Tanya Destruction Slash, and he didn't even give me a chance to touch it. In the cockpit, Zhang Shengfang's eyes were deep. His Tanya Destruction Slash has two variations. The first one is the destruction style he used when he tested whether there was a problem with the spire before. And now the variation of this move, which has a wider spread range and makes the noseless mecha avoid it like a snake and scorpion, is the annihilation style. These scattered halos seem to dilute the cutting characteristics. In fact, the cutting lethality in this dense space is exponentially increasing. Through the dispersion and mutual compression of the halos, and by sacrificing the long-term endurance of the moves, the power and attack range can be expanded. However, this noseless mecha seemed to know the limit of the diffusion boundary of his move in advance, and it actually fought precisely at the boundary of the range of the halo diffusion. In this way, it can attack or defend, and it is as patient as an old hunter. And this also made Zhang Shengfang more vigilant. The first touch was just a reserved attack. Now this attack is so deeply hidden, but this guy can still see through it. Is it because of his high judgment ability, or does he have another hidden identity among the strongest? Because of the intelligence, he deliberately avoided his strongest tricks? The strongest tricks and the heavenly tricks are different iteration systems. His hidden killing method of Tanya Destruction Slash is only known by a few strong people in the human world. With a flash of thought, he controlled the Tanya mecha to quickly move forward to intercept. Since the effective distance of the trick has been discovered, then find a way to shorten the distance. At the same time, Li Yi, with the cooperation of Chen Kaiyongzi, successfully killed the strongest silver mecha, and quickly went to assist Mu Xianlei and Lin Guotao. It took only a few minutes to complete the killing. The other members of the team also helped to battle on the front line here, pulling the front line that was pulled back by the 3 silver mechas back. In this local battlefield, they returned to their own control area, with an advantage in numbers and even stronger strength. But even so, the speed of killing the 3 silver mechas still made Mu Xianlei stunned. Especially when the Heavenly King Mecha stepped on the remains of an alien Mecha, flashed to the side of his opponent and slashed it swiftly, easily cutting the silver Mecha in half. Mu Xianlei couldn't help it anymore. Fuck, Li Yi, how did you manage to break through the defense so easily? What tricks do you have? Teach your brother a few tricks, Li Yi said. The tricks are not difficult, just break through the fighting skills to perfection. Mu Xianlei said embarrassedly, I'm still a step away from perfection. How can I break through to perfection with my head? Do you have any other tricks? Li Yi said, there are really no more. The next thing is to be steady, accurate and ruthless, seize the opportunity and don't slip away. Mu Xianlei lamented, it's easy for you to say it, Alice, it's really frustrating to compare yourself with others. Lin Guotao listened to the two talking, and coughed lightly. Li Yi, what is our next mission? Now that we have killed these 3 silver mechas, what should we do? Is it a breakout of the phalanx on the other side? Li Yi shook his head and said, it's definitely too late to get there now. Our current mission is to fly to the middle of the central axis and wait for a new mission signal. You'll know what to do when the signal comes out. As for now, to prevent the news from leaking, please forgive me for not explaining too much. Everyone stopped struggling and quickly threw the wreckage of the 3 silver mechas into the front line behind the humans before leaving. There are 3 silver masters hiding in it, and we can't let them die on the front line. After throwing them to the rear, there will naturally be corresponding personnel responsible for capturing and interrogating them to get some key information. Although they may not be of much use in this war, they are silver masters after all, and they should not be underestimated. After successfully throwing the wreckage of the silver mechas to the front line, 29 mechas took off quickly, with flames flashing behind them, and flew to the central area. Because the front line is very long, if you don't hurry up, you may not be able to reach the designated location before the corresponding time. Once you miss it, it will be a big deal to delay military aircraft. Although everyone doesn't know what this mission means, they can guess its severity from Li Yi's attitude. On the contrary, no one raised any doubts about Kaiyong's sudden disappearance after leaving the team. Some people didn't realize the problem yet, while others thought she was killed. Others had already guessed it more or less. Inside the aliens' command starship, Kaiyong maintained the momentum of a Bronze Peak strongman of the Star Clan and entered the one-way channel of the command cabin. There is a soul identity recognition detection device here, which will identify the soul characteristic information of specific people entering and leaving. This is also the biggest difficulty for her to complete the task now. While walking, a very ancient divine device appeared in front of her. It was a square steel box, which seemed to be a device similar to a monitor, and was steadily installed in the center of the channel. Please report your identity code. Hearing this vague mechanical sound, Kaiyong slowly opened her mouth and said the code she had prepared in advance. This code was naturally provided by the silver strongman who is in the back. Please enter the 1-meter range and complete the soul identity recognition. With a sound, a faint light was emitted, drawing a 1-meter diameter light circle, reflecting on the ground. Kaiyong listened to the accent that was completely different from other Star Clan people, and her heart moved slightly. She realized that this thing should be the divine cracking device purchased by the Star Clan from other alien powerful tribes. She did not hesitate and immediately approached the 1-meter range. Then, beep, beep, beep. After 3 soft sounds, the faint light emitted by the soul recognition device slowly faded. The soul detection passed. Welcome to the leader of the 3-ship A-class Mecha Regiment, Muliashi. You can pass. Kaiyong's eyes were stunned. Just pass like this? The authority arranged by this silver strongman is too outrageous, right? What position has he climbed in the Star Clan? He can even control this soul detection equipment here? Chapter 263 Shield. At the same time, Wu Zhibo was also checking the traders one by one. In just 4 or 5 minutes, 7 people were checked. Heng Zilong kept the detection system on to observe Wu Zhibo and the gold-level warriors who flew out of the cockpit. At this moment, seeing that the 7th person had been checked, Hang Zilong frowned and said, Wu Zhibo, is your inspection method really feasible? The gold-level warriors all have the ability to survive in the vacuum of the universe, so their inspection process is to fly out of the insertion cabin directly in the flesh and be scanned and observed by Wu Zhibo's 10,000-foot mecha. The process is such a process, but no one can see how Wu Zhibo's scanning light works. He did not explain what the method was, but just vowed that he could do it, so everyone believed him and was willing to cooperate. After all, everyone wants to find the traitor. Moreover, the physical condition of the gold-level warriors is not weak, and they are not completely powerless against the S-level mecha. In case Wu Zhibo attacks with malicious intent, they keep their distance and have the confidence to dodge quickly and return to the mecha at this moment. However, seeing that there were only 5 golden masters who had not completed the test, Hang Zilong was naturally anxious. Wu Zhibo smiled faintly and said, "It will definitely work, don't worry." After all, who can guarantee that there is only one traitor? Hang Zilong's heart moved slightly, and asked in a voice transmission, "You guy, you don't have no means at all, and you just plan to trick the traitor?" Wu Zhibo smiled and said, "Of course not, my method is genuine, it is a special skill that I have just realized recently, which can identify the hidden characteristics of genes and souls. Logically speaking, those who can pass our conventional detection methods must have the means to disguise the soul and genes. However, no matter how well an intelligent species can hide and change its appearance, the characteristics deep in its soul can be traced after all." Hang Zilong frowned and said, "Your characteristic is silence. Where do you get the means to detect the soul?" Wu Zhibo smiled and said, "Will I tell you all my cards? As the second oldest guy in our star clan, don't what I say have some credibility." Hang Zilong's eyes jumped. Just because he was an old guy, he had many doubts. The Star Clan has a long history and is considered to be a powerful race that has survived for a long time among the alien races. Due to the special genes, their gold masters can live longer, nearly half a year longer than the strongest humans. Therefore, the young and strong, led by Hang Zilong, Hang Suor, and Hang Tulong, are the main force in provoking this war. Their appeal is to gain more benefits so that these young and strong gold masters can have the hope of going further and becoming demigods. Otherwise, even if driven by the ancestors of the Star Clan, most of them are unwilling to start a war easily, because it is often difficult to control the losses and benefits of starting a war. Most of the other gold masters are old guys, who are stronger, but because of their age, there is much less room for advancement, so there are more guys who are slacking off. The reason why they can be forcibly pulled over is mainly due to the powerful power of the 3 of them working together, and then cooperating with other young and strong gold and silver masters. But before that, Lin Jianlong's precise assassination focused on capturing Hang Suor, the strongest of the 3, and broke the stable unity among the golden masters. The hidden tacit understanding among them was also broken. Therefore, when they were fighting in the battle of the strongest in the central axis, although they shouted slogans loudly, in fact, it was this group of young and strong people who really contributed the most in the fight. This is also the main reason why Lin Jianlong seized the opportunity to kill a young and strong golden master again. Therefore, he judged that there must be an insider. If it weren't for the insider's revelation, he couldn't figure out why Lin Jianlong could accurately identify the young and strong people and kill them several times. Hang Zilong said slowly, "Wu Zhibo, hurry up, the ancestor said that he has increased the speed, and it will only take 2 minutes to arrive this time. Don't wait for the ancestor to come, and then the traitor will be found out." Wu Zhibo laughed and said, "Okay, I'll hurry up." He Kyung arrived at the command cabin smoothly and met the commander-in-chief of this operation. According to the intelligence she received before, the person in charge of direct command of this operation was also a silver strong man. This person was named Han Qiao, and he was also He Kyung-ying's target of this explosion. In her chest, there was a high-energy gene bomb from the 4th era of divinity. It only needs to be detonated near a creature with a high enough physical strength and enough internal energy to produce an explosive force comparable to that of a B-level divine energy cannon. The power is not particularly strong, but it is enough to assassinate strong men in physical state in some key areas, and even destroy some special facilities. For He Kyung-ying, this mission can be considered a success as long as it can cause the explosion of the starship command cabin and fail to control the divine mecha core in various places. Click. The last hatch opened and He Kyung-ying stepped in. The command cabin was neither too big nor too small, about the same length and width as a human basketball court. The front row was a row of hardened transparent glass, through which one could directly see the outer vacuum and the battle between the mechas. Below, on the left and right, sat a row of big-headed Star Clan members whose heads were connected by thickened nerves and flesh. The skulls of every Star Clan member present seemed to be pried open, revealing the wet cerebral cortex, which was in direct contact with the nerves and flesh extending from the cockpit. The Star Clan's command ship is actually a biological starship. Hikaiyong was a little surprised. At this time, a huge, bald, slippery organ with only brain and cerebral cortex left suddenly turned around, looked at Hikaiyong, and grinned. Hikaiyong, the voice was actually human language, not alien language. Hearing this, Hikaiyong's scalp tingled. Without any hesitation, she threw the biological gene bomb out. This thing only needs to be thrown at a certain speed to produce an impact, and it will release the gene detonating material, quickly find people with high gene strength around, and then detonate the other person's body. But at this moment, a huge invisible force suddenly penetrated at high speed. This biological gene bomb was suppressed on her palm and could not be thrown out. Hikaiyong's face changed drastically. Is this a trap? Don't get excited, we are one family. Before you start, I have a few words to tell you. Don't worry, no one around can hear your voice or mine. They have been blocked by me. This brain, with an incomplete mouth, smiled and said, my disguised identity is Bayan from the Star Clan, but I am a human being, and my real name is Qiao Dawn. Hearing this, Hikaiyong relaxed a little and asked, since you have already controlled their command starship, why do you have to go to such lengths to let me detonate this bomb? Qiao Dawn smiled and said, this is of course for the 5th stage of this operation. You bringing this gene bomb to me is the key to this operation. Hikaiyong was suspicious. The combat order was to have the bomb explode next to Han Qiao, that is, Qiao Dawn. Her heart moved slightly, and her divinity quietly released, and then she prepared to forcibly detonate the biological bomb. Qiao Dawn saw Hikaiyong's movements and said, it will only take half a minute. Just listen to me first. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 1 minute. Hikaiyong chose to listen patiently. Qiao Dawn said quickly, first, you need to leave the high-energy gene bomb behind and leave quickly. Next, leave everything to me. I know you will definitely doubt it, but time is limited, there is no way. You can confirm the authenticity of the situation and whether I am lying to you. The original mission was very simple. You only need to open this hatch, throw the high-energy gene bomb to me, and detonate it directly. That's the mission completed, right, but the situation has changed. If we continue to follow the current strategy, the 5th phase of the operation is likely to fail, because according to the latest intelligence, the ancestors of the Star Clan are probably here a long time ago. He is the actual controller of the starship. The overall control brain of this entire biological starship is one of his clones, so, according to the original plan, the command cabin is destroyed. As long as the main body of the ship is still there, he can immediately take over the control and maintain the command of the entire core. Hearing this, Hikaiyong's heart was slightly shocked. If Qiao Dawn knew the details of the mission, it would indeed be much more credible. Although it is possible that the undercover was discovered by the Star Clan, and they used a trick against her. But this is the enemy's hinterland. If there's really a problem, she would have been killed long ago. At this moment, she also tended to believe Qiao Dawn. So, if I give you the thing, what will you do? Qiao Dawn's incomplete cerebral cortex squirmed, and seemed to smile, saying, I will wait for the other party's ancestor to get close before detonating it, so the plan will be a little later than scheduled. Hikaiyong frowned and said, what about you? If you detonate it here, you should not be able to escape, right? Qiao Dawn said, yes, but it doesn't matter. Just give me the thing, and leave the rest to me. Just open your hands and let go of this gene bomb. Hikaiyong did not hesitate anymore and opened her hands. The fist-sized high-energy gene bomb in her palm slowly floated up and slowly flew towards Qiao Dawn. Hikaiyong did not feel the flow of divinity, and immediately knew that this was probably the effect of some characteristics. Okay, you can go back. By the way, please tell General Lin to take good care of my children. Hikaiyong nodded silently and turned to leave. She knew that Qiao Dong had been ready to sacrifice here. I hope Qiao Dong's plan will go smoothly. At this moment, there is still 1 minute before the ancestor of the Star Clan arrives. Earth. 2 supergiant mechas are fighting hard. The sound of gas explosions continued, and the surrounding environment was broken piece by the trampling of the 2 mechas. The collision of divine energy also occasionally raised huge air waves on the surface of the earth, spreading in all directions. A surprised voice suddenly came from the noseless mecha. Zhang Xingfeng, what did you do just now? Did you spread the news? Zhang Shengfeng's heart was slightly startled. Naturally, he had already used the divine energy cannon to shoot out the news during the battle. This is also a means of secret research by humans. Divine energy can be used as a tool for information transmission to achieve a method similar to electromagnetic wave signals. Through signal translation, and then through the high-power quantum communication device he set up in advance, he can use this trip to send out signals no matter which ruins on Earth he is trapped in. Originally, this device was just to prevent the strongest from being trapped in the ruins, so that there is a way to send out signals. Now that there is important intelligence on both the Earth and the border star, it also happens to be one of the important channels for secret message transmission. This trick is also the method studied by the strongest scholar Duan Mushong of mankind, and only a few people know about it. The good news is that judging from the reaction of the noseless mecha pilot, he should not know this method of information transmission. But the bad news is that the news he sent out was obviously confirmed by the ancestor of the Star Clan from other channels. For example, the unusual movement on the side of the recipient of the information made the ancestor of the Star Clan suspicious. Zhang Shengfeng knew that he had to mislead the other party at this time. As long as this time was dragged out, the 5th stage of the operation could be successfully implemented. He immediately sneered and said, "Haha, do you think we didn't know that you sneaked into our human race quietly? Do you think we really don't understand the purpose of you resurrectors? In fact, what I said before was just to deceive you, the old thief. You keep saying that you have multiple clones, but in fact, the clone on the front line of the border star is not strong enough, so you haven't shown up yet, because you found that the clone's combat power is not as good as Lin Zongxi, so it has never appeared. Haha, if possible, you naturally hope that the Star Clan will suppress humans by the way and kill us, the strongest humans who are in the way. So that you can truly monopolize the Enlightenment Mountain. It's just that your talent is not enough to stimulate the Enlightenment Mountain, so you have to go through so much trouble." Right, as he was talking, the noseless mecha in front suddenly had a very subtle flaw, as if the mind was shaken, and was instantly caught by Zhang Shengfeng, who controlled the Tanya mecha to slash down. It was his other strongest trick, Talia Duinquangzan. As the sword slashed down, a huge sword-shaped black crack suddenly flashed in the space ahead, instantly penetrating the divine shield and extending to noseless mecha's shoulder. Boom! With a huge sound, a huge gap visible to the naked eye was cut on the noseless mecha's shoulder. From the chest to the seam where the shoulder armor and the fuselage meet, a huge crack of 30 meters wide and hundreds of meters long was revealed, revealing thick muscle fiber bundles swallowed by the irregular space. Countless divine energies burst out around the noseless mecha, and it was quickly repairing the crack. Obviously, at the demigod stage, it can already greatly stimulate divinity and instantly stimulate the divine mecha to recover from damage. When Zhang Shengfeng saw this, his heart sank. As expected of a demigod, this couldn't do anything to him. At this time, the noseless mecha sneered, "I wanted to play with you and see how strong the latest generation of human genius is. In that case, die." As soon as the voice fell, a magnificent divine energy burst out from the noseless mecha, just like a rising star, with an unparalleled grand momentum, pressing forward in an instant. Crack, crack, crack. This divine energy surged down like a tide, suppressing the Tanya mecha like it was trapped in a quagmire. The huge loads rushed into the cockpit, and even a strong man like Zhang Shengfeng felt a terrifying feeling of being overloaded. Is this divine energy of information load? Before Zhang Shengfeng could think of it, the noseless mecha in front of him had already punched him. Boom! The Tanya mecha was unable to react in time, and the chest armor was hit, directly breaking into a spider web. Chapter 265 Detonation. When Wu Zibo finished checking the second-to-last person, the last strongest man saw that the second-to-last person was fine, and the others obviously turned their divine mechas towards him, so he immediately shouted, "Hey, Wu Zibo, are your inspection methods really effective? I'm not a human traitor, How could a small race like humans bribe a gold-level strongman from a big clan like us? Seeing this, Wu Zibo said with a smile, Tang Zibo, then come out and check me quickly to eliminate your suspicion. The face of the man named Tang Zibo sank slightly, and he said, everyone knows that you and I have a grudge. You put me in the last place for inspection. Everyone knows that you are harboring evil intentions and want to take the opportunity to slander me, Wu Zibo said with a smile. Then why don't you come out earlier and get tested earlier? Everyone is witnessing it. What are you afraid of? Or are you the traitor? Otherwise, why are you talking so much? Zibo is a unique title of the Star Clan. Only strong people who are over 1,000 years old and have reached the peak of strength can get this title. Among them, when they obtain this title, they will also be in charge of the time-related divine artifact that has been circulated in the Star Clan for a long time. This artifact is not a divine technological equipment, nor is it a divine weapon, but more like a special item born from nature. The item is in the shape of an account book, also known as the time book. The main account book is held in the hands of the Star Clan's ancestor, and the branch account books are held in the hands of the 5,000-year-old golden masters of the Star Clan. Therefore, the strength of this Tang Zibo is also extraordinary. Although he is weaker than Wu Zibo, his temper is naturally very strong. He immediately shouted, Wu Zibo, you just claim that you are sure to detect the traitor, so everyone is willing to cooperate with you, but I saw your inexplicable scanning light, and there is no means to deeply detect the depths of the soul or the depths of the genes. I have long suspected why you took the initiative to take on the task and insisted on testing before the ancestor arrived. Maybe you are the traitor. Everything you did just now was just to delay time. Wu Zibo sneered when he heard this. Delay time? Do I need to do this? Tang Zibo, I think you want to delay time. The thief is crying thief. Give me 3 seconds. As long as you leave the insertion cabin now, I can still give you a face. After the test, if you are fine, I can pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you on the spot. Just when the situation was becoming more and more tense. Suddenly, a huge voice suddenly descended, reaching the souls of all the gold masters present. Haha, I, the ancestor, have come here with great difficulty. I originally wanted to see you defeat humans, take over the border star, and enter the Silent Star region. In the end, I saw 2 old gang members leading the quarrel. Do you think that I am not here, so you are so unbridled, or do you not take me seriously at all? As this huge voice came word by word, each bite seemed to be a huge soul hammer, constantly bombarding. All the gold masters present felt a strong soul pressure. This kind of pressure is definitely not the strength that the peak gold or the first demigod can do. Is this? Has the ancestor completely recovered the peak demigod strength? Is this the real reason why he was late? Everyone present was horrified. They were happy that the ancestor was strong, but if he was too strong, life would be difficult. But, where's the person? Although the sound hit the soul, why didn't I see anyone? From the perspective of the observation system, everyone looked around under the pressure of their souls. At this time, Wu Zibo said in a smirk, his voice transmitted through the public frequency, Ancestor, it has to be you. It will be easier for us if you come. Originally, we could have conquered humans a long time ago, but there was a traitor among our old guys who secretly communicated with humans and sold out information. As a result, although we had the advantage in military strength, we were still unable to attack for a long time. Take the trouble to confirm whether there is something wrong with Tang Zibo. As soon as these words came out, Tang Zibo's face changed slightly, and he shouted under the pressure of his soul, Ancestor, don't listen to the lies of Wu Zibo. This guy is the traitor. Check him first. It is very likely that he will suddenly attack while you are testing me, or suddenly run away. The ancestor's voice said with a smile, it's okay. Both of you check together. Now get out of the cabin in your physical body. Don't be afraid of a mere small tribe of humans. I have a full grasp of the situation now. No one needs to say anything. I know everything about what to do. Tang Zibo and Wu Zibo had no choice but to get out of the cabin in their physical body. 2 tall members of the Star Clan slowly flew out from the 2 corresponding mechas. Because their divine mechas were next to the command starship, they came to the command cabin as soon as they left the cabin. At this moment, the front glass window of the command cabin suddenly shattered. Along with a large amount of air being sucked out of the vacuum, a large number of operators whose brains were connected to the nerves and flesh were sucked out by the huge force. Among them, there was another one, Qiao Dong. It was he who seized the opportunity to break the front window glass. The moment he flew out, He also aimed the high-energy gene bomb at Wu's Hibo and threw it over. No one expected this change. When they reacted, the high-energy gene bomb had already hit the divine shield outside Wu's Hibo's body, releasing the gene-detonating material. Wu's Hibo, a gold-level master, seemed to be unable to withstand this special substance and expanded rapidly. Then, it exploded with a bang. The violent explosion flames instantly engulfed the entire broken command cabin. At the same time, Qiao Don, the human undercover who threw this high-energy gene bomb at close range, was instantly engulfed by the explosion. After all, it was a divine energy cannon that was comparable to the full-strength bombardment of a B-class mecha. Under such a close-range explosion, the surrounding objects were quickly engulfed and shattered. In the distance, Li Yi observed the front of the central axis from a distance. It's 1 minute later than the scheduled time, but it's okay, everyone, start charging. At this moment, the battlefield of the central axis has long been a vast vacuum domain with blood and fire intertwined. The assault group, who had been prepared for a long time, had been holding back and staying above the central axis battle group without participating in the battle, just to accumulate strength and wait for the launch signal. If they had participated in the melee of the central axis battle group before, they would have lost the effect of a surprise soldier, and secondly, they would not be able to gain the maximum opportunity in the chaotic situation where the battle groups of all parties lacked direct command and connection. At Li Yi's order, the 29 mechas began to burst into violent flames behind them. Above the battle group, these mechas flashed like meteors and stabbed into the aliens' rear phalanx like large sharp knives. This insertion was the heart of the army. Chapter 266, Embezzlement. Li Yi's mechas began to attack the central axis in a big way. In the vast vacuum, these mechas flashing with fierce flames fought like locusts, while Li Yi's team was like a sharp sword, moving freely among these alien mechas. The strongest and high-ranking people led by Lin Jianlong also started their own mechas at the same time and rushed towards the alien army. In an instant, these huge mechas of 300 to 400 meters rose with divine energy, leaving a trail of flames of tens of thousands of meters, like meteors, crashing into the battlefield of the central axis and killing indiscriminately. With the addition of these two major forces, the thousands of B-class mechas on the battlefield of the central axis were immediately defeated. In the vacuum, countless divine energy cannons swept together. One shot could break the divine shields of 7 or 8 B-class mechas and directly break the defense. Some of those shot in the head and chest, which were vital parts, were directly shut down and stopped moving. After all, it was an S-class mecha. Even if it was just a casual divine energy cannon, it had such a terrifying defense-breaking power. The B-class mecha controlled by Li Yi took advantage of its high mobility, zigzagging around the enemy's army formation and tearing back and forth. With the destruction of the main control console of the alien command ship, the alien army lacked a command center for the entire map, and those B-class mechas were soon killed and scattered everywhere like snowflakes. In addition, Li Yi's commandos and the strongest people went down to attack with all their strength, and the human combat power on the wing line gradually surrounded them. Soon, the first batch of B-class mechas that were defeated and fled to the direction of the Stargate appeared in the aliens' various square formations. At the same time, He Kyung drove the Moth Mecha and left the command starship far away. At that time, she turned on the detection system and saw the scene of Qiao Don's suicide attack, which involved Wu's Hibo in a high-energy gene bomb. While she was mourning in her heart, she had many doubts. Could it be that the Golden Warrior is the so-called ancestor of the Star Clan? Isn't that too weak? The aftermath of the high-energy gene bomb has not yet subsided. The Golden Warriors have all used the detection system to determine the genetic detonation substances hidden in the aftermath. They are in the mecha, so they don't have to worry about anything happening. But it is hard to say whether the Wu's Hibo and Teng's Hibo, who have left the cabin in person, can survive the terrifying explosion. This explosion is comparable to the full-strength bombardment of the B-level, and even the A-level mecha can break through the defense. Even if they are Golden Warriors, they can only break through the 100-meter mecha in their physical bodies. In terms of physical defense, there is still some gap from the peak of the B-level. The Wu's Hibo at the center of the explosion is likely to be seriously injured if not dead, while the Teng's Hibo, who is a little further away, should be in a better situation. Heng Zilong's focus is on the front line. He looked at the central axis battle group that was being killed and retreated step by step, and his face was extremely ugly. He didn't expect that the traitor was hiding in the command starship. Just now, he clearly saw it. The one who threw the divine bomb was none other than his most trusted cousin, Xingyu. This silver evolver who had passed the test of the ancestors and could become a key role in the starship commander, destined to be connected to this biological starship for the rest of his life, could actually be so cruel as to destroy the starship's master control system that was connected to his life. Then he took advantage of the moment when the master control system was destroyed to throw the divine bomb at Wu's Hebo. At this moment, other thoughts flashed through his mind. Could it be that Wu's Hebo is the ancestor, or one of the bodies that the ancestor relies on? Xingyu, because of his important position as the commander of the starship, has figured out where the ancestor's body is, so before that he set the target of killing Wu's Hebo to complete his revenge on the ancestor, or is Wu's Hebo just one of the people affected? There was no response when I called the ancestor several times just now, which means that one of Tang's Hebo and Wu's Hebo must be the source of the terrifying soul pressure that the ancestor just felt. However, now that the battle situation has turned into such a scene, without the command of the starship, even if we kill with all our strength, we won't get much good. This battle has come to this point, and all the original interests have long been impossible to achieve. Defeated. Next, what should I do to be the most correct? Should I seek peace and cease fire, or escape, and unite with other silver or even gold races to make a comeback? In an instant, Hang Zilong paid attention and shouted, "The ancestor has made other discoveries and has gone to other places to carry out activities. The ancestor has handed over the power of subsequent affairs to me to deal with. Everyone, this battle is doomed to fail. We should leave the remaining manpower and return to the heartland of our star clan. As long as most of our forces remain, humans will not dare to cross the border star and invade the territory of our star clan. In our heartland, there are still some troops left. If they are assembled, they will also be a huge force. In this way, even if other gold and silver races covet us, they will have the power to fight back. Now I ask to retreat. What do you think?" As he spoke, the aftermath of the explosion gradually dissipated. Wu's Hebo's body had completely disappeared. And Tang's Hebo, who was a little further away from the center of the explosion, had many damaged parts on his body and blood flowing, but it seemed that his condition was not too bad. He immediately said in a deep voice, "I agree with Hang Zilong's judgment. At this point, it is useless to fight again. It is nothing more than excessive loss of manpower. We should retreat quickly." The other veteran strongmen did not have many opinions. They had long ago relinquished the command of the major corps. Although they felt sorry for the loss of soldiers, they did not feel so sorry that they regretted it. Although the battle on the central axis had a large number of divine mechas in the Star Clan that could not be recovered, the strength of the Star Clan would inevitably be greatly weakened. But I believe that as long as these gold masters are there, the status of the Silver Clan of the Star Clan will remain stable. Moreover, with the disappearance of Wu's Hebo, the voice of the ancestor also suddenly disappeared. And these old foxes became more active. I also agree with Hang Zilong's decision. Let's retreat quickly. Before retreating, let's leave a big move for the other side. It would be best if we can kill a gold master and weaken him, and those B-class mechas that are obviously driven by bronze masters should also be hit hard. The gold masters ordered to express their opinions. During the fight, Li Yu found that the battle order displayed on the communicator had changed. He immediately clicked it and read it quickly. Interesting, He Guangzi as an undercover agent in the Star Clan, who even knows that they are preparing to retreat. The mission is simple: intercept as many Star Clan troops as possible, and let the two clan troops go. Li Yu's heart moved slightly. It can be seen that the layout of humans is also good. The enemy is in the dark and we are in the light. The resurrectors are hiding everywhere, eyeing humans covetously. This battle can actually produce such an effect, which shows that humans' concealment methods are not bad. He thought for a moment and said on the public channel, "Have you received the news of the change in combat orders?" Chen Kaiongzi said, "I got it. We have to take a detour to intercept a group of retreating troops, right?" Mu Xianlei snorted and said, "I got it too. This is a great opportunity, Li Yu, let's kill him, a big one." Li Yu understood. It seems that the instructions are consistent. There is no hidden order this time. Then charge, and try to complete the task intact. Everyone, don't get hurt. Chapter 267 Intercept. Since the decision to retreat has been made, how to retreat is also a problem. Anyway, the dead are gone, and the Gold Warriors have no intention of avenging their fellow Gold Warriors. They are independent individuals, and the reason they can gather together this time is purely the result of the efforts of the ancestors and young and strong people of the Star Clan. Although the dust has not settled yet, running away is inevitable. In essence, the older generation, except for a few, are not very motivated to fight. It's not that they don't want to make progress, they just want to use a safer method. When people get old, they cherish their lives more. Then, how should we keep our ultimate moves? If we keep our ultimate moves well, we can't run away safely, a gold warrior said. Tang Zibu said, I can use the move, 1,000 vines and 10,000 flowers, to lock a large area of airspace and block their activities. Lao, you can assist with a range skill, Stone Frozen Absolute Domain, which will cooperate with my move to form a double range interception. Mo Zibu pondered and said, okay, Hang Zilong, in this case, take out your Eternal Light All Things, as well. Hang Zilong nodded and said, okay, then, this range interception move will be launched by the three of us together, and as for the other gold masters, each of them will use a long-range skill to intercept. Now it is a matter of life and death. If anyone holds back, then who will be attacked by the others first? How about it? Everyone nodded. We must go all out and squeeze out all our potential, otherwise we won't have enough time and we will die in the end, Hang Zilong said again. Tang Zibu said in a deep voice, it's a matter of life and death, I believe you all know. As he said, the gold and silver masters controlled their own divine mechas and began to brew their own strongest moves. The severely injured Tang Zibu began to control its flower vine mecha, adjusting the state of the fuselage and observing the movement in front. Then, it opened its mouth and sprayed out a divine energy cannon. This divine energy cannon, with a green color, a slow firing speed, and a hidden characteristic power, hit a Class A initial stage mecha in the middle of the melee between the human mecha and its own mecha. The divine mecha that was hit turned out to be a divine mecha belonging to the two clan. The moment it was hit, the divine shield outside the body exploded instantly. At the same time, countless emerald green light spots scattered around. These light spots spread at an incredibly fast speed, and they expanded to the surrounding divine mechas in various places at once, sticking to their mecha shells or divine shields. As they stuck, these emerald green light spots expanded and turned into huge vines, extending in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a giant vine net, covering the surrounding area of tens of thousands of meters, wrapping the divine mechas of the human and alien sides. This was only the first time. The flower vine mecha was still spraying, like a high-speed jet gun, continuously shooting out the divine energy cannons containing the strongest tricks. Soon, with these dozen shots, the movements of the divine mechas within a few light seconds were restricted by the ubiquitous vines. Moreover, these vines also have the ability to absorb the divine mechas' escaping divinity and continue to grow. At the same time as these dozen shots. On the other side, Mazibu also began to control his Zuamo mecha and launched the strongest trick. I saw this round and short S-level divine mecha, like a boulder, flying high under the propulsion of the thrusters behind it. Then, it also opened its mouth and sprayed out the divine energy cannon, shooting down from a bird's eye view. As the incomparably dark divine energy cannon shot out and touched the thick vines, these vines that could be easily torn apart by the divine mechas began to harden, as hard and tough as alloy materials that had been tempered 1,000 times. Moreover, the ability of these hardened vines to absorb divinity also increased suddenly. In a short time, some divine mechas that were beaten and bruised all over were quickly sucked out of all the divinity that the driver could stimulate. Then, the driver was beaten into an overload state and was passively ejected from the insertion cabin. A large number of weaker evolvers on both the human and alien sides broke away from the divine mechas. For a time, the entire battle group was filled with a large number of floating insertion cabins, which also interfered with the continued progress of the human side. At the same time, Hang Zilong's Spee Mecha also began to prepare its strongest trick. The extremely tall Spee Mecha was seen holding an A-level sky-breaking sword, instilling divinity, and waving it quickly. With each swing, a series of slashing sword beams flew out, quickly soaring towards the petrified vine net. At the same time, countless free light in the space was gathered. A series of sword beams swayed and flashed like swimming fish, and when they reached the petrified vine net, they began to explode with huge amounts of divine light. In an instant, unprecedented terrifying brilliance flashed out. These sword beams actually produced a terrifying invasion effect like a divine light bomb. In an instant, Countless B-level and C-level mechas that did not react in time and did not open the divine shields were quickly shut down and stopped moving. Only those who opened the divine shields in time could remain in good condition. But even so, those with weaker strength did not dare to move at will. Because these sword beams flash continuously, a slight movement could penetrate through the gap in the divine shield in an instant, which was extremely fierce. At the same time, other strong men of the Star Clan were constantly launching long-range attacks, trying to intercept the large-scale impact of the human side. The Golds really went all out this time, without any reservation. Before, they all had their own slack, but now they launched various range moves, each of which consumed a lot of energy and was incredibly powerful. It could be said that it was a concentrated display of the top-level strongmen of the Star Clan. Soon, the tearing momentum of Li Yi and his group was also intercepted. After all, it was a super range move of each top gold, and their B-class mechas were relatively too weak. Moreover, their range moves even affected their own people, forming a large number of barriers in the surrounding airspace. The most intuitive thing was that their means of linear acceleration were directly interfered with, and they could not form an effective acceleration distance at all. Even the strongest people like Lin Jianlong could only find a way to knock out these petrified nets and the range attacks that were comparable to divine light bombs before they could continue to move forward. Including Lin Jianlong, his cosmic light characteristics also require a certain gap to penetrate instantly. In this scene, his ability was obviously also affected and could not be maximized. If the Star Clan had used this ultimate move earlier, I'm afraid our encroachment of the central axis would not have been completed so quickly. Duan Mushang observed the mechas that were caught in the petrified 10 net, knowing that their interception mission was likely to fail. At this time, Lin Jianlong said slowly, "If you don't kill the snake, you will suffer from it. Now is the best time for us to capture the Star Clan. If we let them escape, we will have trouble later. Since they have an ultimate move to intercept, we can also use the ultimate move to break this interception." Chapter 268 Repair. The Heavenly King Mecha slashed with a sword, splitting the B-class mecha blocking the way in front into two halves. With Li Yi's current subtle power, he doesn't need to activate any characteristics. A flat attack can break the defense of the A-class initial stage mecha. Not to mention the remaining brave soldiers of these aliens in front of him. However, now the surrounding vacuum environment is entangled by countless petrified vines, sticking the complete or broken divine mechas in midair. As a result, the movement space of Li Yi and his group is also greatly restricted. Damn it, are we just going to let these people run away like this? Mu Xianlei was a little depressed. He just had a bit of killing intent, and before he could kill them all, he was suppressed by Hang Zilong's strongest move, Hengguang Wangxiang, and the speed of fighting plummeted. Although the central axis has also damaged and destroyed thousands of B-class and C-class mechas, there are indeed quite a few who have successfully escaped and flown farther and farther. Although the human side has achieved remarkable results, if there is no such interception, they can at least intercept thousands of alien divine mechas. Lin Wendong said calmly, "At this point, we can only strive to capture as many aliens trapped here as possible. With enough rich divine mechas, we can also cultivate more suitable talents. After all, we are not short of D-level and C-level mechas, but we are short of B-level and A-level." Lin Wendong's mentality is as stable as ever. As a commander, he may lack foresight and judgment, but as a fighter, he is much better than Mu Xianlei. In the battle just now, the one who defeated the most A-level and B-level in the whole game, except for Li Yi, who accounted for the majority, was Lin Wendong. Mo Chenlong said, "Captain Lin is right. Even if we can rush over, we may not be able to play much of a role in the future. It is better to gather the divine mecha core trapped here and try to solve it without damage. With this batch of harvest, we will develop slowly. I believe that even if the Star Tribe makes a comeback, they will only send us equipment." Everyone was fighting and talking at the same time, and they gradually became more comfortable. Li Yi had just broken through not long ago, but now in the fierce battle, in the state of the ego's concentration, a new divine gene is about to be generated. Although it is not yet completed, it is also a surprise. After a few minutes, suddenly, in the central axis battle group in front, the several S-class mechas suddenly burst out with huge flashes of divine energy. Immediately afterwards, 4 extremely thick divine energy cannons burst through the layers of petrified vines, accurately avoiding all the mechas on the human side, and destroy the divine mechas blocking the alien side, rushing forward all the way. In the blink of an eye, These 4 divine energy cannons penetrated a petrified vine net that was constantly blocking them, accelerated to an extremely amazing 0.5 light speed, and flew towards the alien mecha core that were fleeing far away. Then, there was a super explosion visible to the naked eye. In the vacuum, countless dark energy flows began to flow, gravity was disturbed, and time and space seemed to be shaking. The mechas separated by a few light seconds were also shaken by the sudden gravity, and their bodies were unstable. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. Sure enough, if the S-class mecha burst out with all its strength, its lethality was not at the same level as other mechas. Even if the silver mecha could use the heavenly trick to break the defense of the S-class mecha, it was obviously impossible to brew such a fierce divine energy cannon. Moreover, these 4 divine energy cannons were the 4 common sequences of wind, fire, thunder and ice. The terrifying explosion produced by the combination of the 4 might leave a large number of alien divine mechas. The shock of the crowd was not over yet. The next second, all the S-class mechas of the human side, including the other 2 silver mechas, disappeared instantly under the divine cosmic light released by the Xianzhao mecha, and turned into an imperceptible streak of light, shooting towards the channel opened up by the 4 divine energy cannons. Seeing this, Mu Xianli exclaimed, "General Lin's cosmic light characteristics are really fierce. He can easily carry 10 mechas over 300 meters in length at a time. It seems that they are preparing to hunt down the Star Clan alone. Li Yi, haven't our combat orders been updated?" Hearing this, Li Yi glanced at the communicator and shook his head. "There are updates, but they just ask us to hurry up and wipe out the alien mechas around this petrified vine net. Brother Mu, work harder. I estimate that after this petrified vine net is wiped out, we will march deep into the hinterland of the Star Clan. By then, the battle will probably still have to be fought, and it will most likely be a protracted war." Hearing this, Chen Kaiyongzi said thoughtfully, "Li Yi, do you think this battle can still be fought?" Li Yi pondered and said, "There are some secrets of the upper level that I don't know all of, but judging from the current battle situation, the Star Clan may launch a new attack at any time. If we don't completely nail down the people of the Star Clan, we will be in big trouble in the future, or maybe we can just start a clan war among the aliens and replace the name of the silver race of the Star race. Maybe we will be safer in the future." Chen Kaiyongzi and the others are all in the heavenly position, so they naturally have the authority to know the latest information from the aliens. When they heard this, their eyes lit up. Mo Chenlong agreed even more, "That makes sense. The ones who have wars and hatred with us are always the Star race. Other gold and silver races may covet us, but they are not the mainstream after all. If we can take the opportunity to replace the name of the silver race of the Star race, then it will probably be easier in the future." Lin Wendong pondered, "I'm afraid it won't be easy. After all, whether we can be recognized by the mainstream of aliens is also unknown." Mu Xianli said, "We can talk about this later. Let's kill these Star soldiers first." More than half an hour later, humans completed the elimination of all alien mechas in the petrified vine area and completely destroyed the petrified vines. The strongest ones haven't returned yet, and no one knows what's going on. After a long battle, everyone flew back to the starship one after another to complete the repairs. At the same time, 7 or 8 large main ships arrived from the border star to help collect the spoils. Li Yi had just rested for less than half an hour when He Guangzi called him to the command cabin. "Sit down." In the command cabin, Li Yi found that He Guangzi looked tired with the naked eye. His eyes were sunken and his eyes were weak. Seeing this scene, Li Yi was startled. Is the deduction and command of such a large mecha corps so mentally exhausting? Or is it the influence of other things? Isn't it strange that I am so depressed? Li Yi's heart moved slightly, and he said, "Yes, the war is obviously won. Why doesn't Commander He look happy at all?" He Guangzi said, "There is no way. Now we seem to have won a great victory, but in fact, the situation is very tense. Have you ever thought about why the ancestors of the Star Clan have never shown up? Do you know how our subsequent war will go?" Li Yi shook his head and said, "I am on the battlefield, and I can't see clearly due to my limited perspective. There is no need to keep it at this time." He Guangzi smiled and was about to continue talking. Suddenly, a message prompt sounded on the communicator on his desk. He Guangzi glanced at it casually, and his face suddenly darkened. In this gloom, there was also some shock, disbelief, suspicion, anger, and sadness. Li Yi also noticed He Guangzi's expression and couldn't help asking, "Commander He, did you receive any bad news?" "Well, Zhang Shengfang is suspected to have fallen. Chapter 269 Qiao Dong. Li Yi's heart was slightly shaken, and he was a little unconvinced. Commander He, you can't say that. What do you mean by suspected fall? He Guangzi said in a deep voice. On Earth, Lao Zhang found another hidden resurrectionist and confronted him directly. That resurrectionist was driving an SS-class mecha, and he was very powerful. He also mastered our human quantum communication technology and blocked the surrounding signals. The high-level Cheyenne Wei who rushed over to support arrived at the scene, but found that the Tanya mecha had been destroyed for the most part, and its head cockpit was gone. According to the subsequent investigation, the broken armor pieces on the surface of the head of the Tanya mecha were scattered a lot. Moreover, in the wreckage of the Tanya mecha, the connecting part of its nose and fuselage did not show obvious cut marks, but more like fracture marks under heavy blows. Hearing this, Li Yi's heart sank. The large amount of armor pieces scattered on the nose means that it was hit hard? Or even completely destroyed. The situations described by He Guangzi show that the damage to the Tanya mecha is not low. The fact that Zhang Shangfeng, who is considered one of the best in the S-class, was beaten to this level shows how powerful the opponent's SS-class mecha is. He Guangzi nodded slowly. That's right, if only the head was cut off and the prisoner was taken away, then the traces left behind would definitely not be like this, of course. Because the other fragments of the cockpit have not been found yet, so, there are only two possibilities at present. 1. Lao Zhang was annihilated in the cockpit by some powerful move, and his body was torn into pieces. 2. The Tanya mecha was directly severed at the connection between the head and shoulders by some extremely powerful blow, and then he was captured. However, considering that this resurrector has the ability to control humans to become substitutes, even if Lao Zhang was captured, I'm afraid his end might not be good. Li Yi frowned and thought for a moment, then said, then, were there any other traces of the opponent's SS-class mecha found at the scene? Or fragments of material that were knocked out of the armor? He Guangzi understood what Li Yi meant, shook his head and said, no, this SS class is very powerful, and most likely has mastered the means to make the mecha immortal. Immortal mecha. Li Yi's eyes moved slightly. He Guangzi explained, that's right. When your total amount of divinity is high enough, and can even resonate and amplify the divine mecha, you can achieve a mysterious state of human-machine integration. At this level, any damage can be quickly repaired, and at this time, the combat power will reach an unparalleled terrifying level. So, even if you suffer various injuries in battle, as long as you repair them on the spot, the fragments that were shot out will be sucked back, and it will be difficult to find traces. To find them, you can probably only find fine powder that has been splashed more than a few thousand meters away. Li Yi listened thoughtfully. Then among us humans, which strong people have mastered this realm? He Guangzi said, only General Lin, no one else can. Li Yi understood. It seems that this is an ability that can only be mastered by demigods or the strongest peak. He Guangzi nodded and said, in fact, some demigods may not be able to master this. Because some demigods are not good at total divinity, and General Lin is the kind with a large reserve of total divinity. In short, as long as the total divinity is high enough, the other requirements are not difficult. With your technical and tactical level, if the total amount of divinity is in place, you will be able to reach the powerful stage of human-machine integration immediately. Li Yi shook his head and said, it doesn't matter for now. The key is the current whereabouts of the SS-class mecha. Since he defeated Commander Zhang, why didn't he continue to go to the Enlightenment Mountain? Get what he wants, He Guangzi said. Most likely, before losing, Lao Zhang left that guy with some serious injuries, forcing him to repair separately. Although there are no fragments of the SS-class mecha left around, judging from the battle at that time, Lao Zhang is by no means powerless to fight back. Now that the war has come to an end, Lao Tan and Lao Zhao did not participate in the pursuit of the Star Clan, and have quickly returned to Earth through the Star Gate to prevent the SS-class master from causing chaos. Li Yi now understood where He Guangzi's anxiety and fatigue came from. Internal and external troubles, both sides have not been completely resolved, and there is always the possibility of a comeback. He thought for a moment and asked, so, what's the situation with the ancestor of the Star Clan, the chief he just mentioned? Is this person dead or alive? He Guangzi said, let me tell you this. According to the news that Lao Zhang sent before he lost contact, the ancestor of the Star Clan and the group of resurrectors who sneaked into the Star Division Rubik's Cube maze in an attempt to find the so-called Enlightenment are the same entity. The SS-class mecha driver that Lao Zhang found is most likely an important clone of the ancestor of the Star Clan. Or even the main body, and the one who stayed on our border star front should be the soul of a golden strongman named Wu's Hippo, or maybe Wu's Hippo is his clone, but such a powerful character can be solved by a divine balm. I always feel unreal, so I have to think carefully and review the situation to see where this old thief is hiding his hidden hands. Li Yu understood. So Chief, he thinks that the ancestor of the Star Clan is not completely dead on the border star? Maybe there are other backup plans. Are you not just worried about the clone on Earth? He Guangzi said. Yes, now listen to me tell you the whole story of the battle, and help me figure out if there are any omissions. Li Yu nodded. I also have some doubts about the whole battle that need to be answered by Commander He. He Guangzi coughed lightly and began to narrate. Qiao Don, the silver lurker we stayed in the Star Clan, has been working hard to infiltrate the Star Clan since he was promoted to the heavenly position more than 200 years ago. Through the characteristics of genetic manipulation, he has molded himself into half of the Star Clan. Then, in a battle between two stars, he ventured into the Star Clan. He has been out of contact for more than 200 years, and I always thought that he had failed to infiltrate. I didn't expect that until recently. We got in touch and learned that he had infiltrated a high level of the Star Clan. The drifting core you found last time was the work of Qiao Don. In those drifting boxes, there are replicas of the quantum communication components he brought over before. Based on this component, we updated the data and got in touch with him again. We found out afterwards that his infiltration process was not smooth. He encountered several dangerous situations and even his quantum communicator was destroyed. He could only passively receive messages and could not actively send messages. Moreover, in order to enter the power center of the Star Clan, he changed his genes several times in succession, and even forgot how to change his original body back. He sacrificed his future and finally became one of the brains of the aliens' biological starship command. You may not know that the aliens currently do not have an AI control system like ours. Many of them rely on biological starships to achieve full control. Hearing this, Li Yu was shocked. It turned out that the group of slave soldiers who were not controlled by the thought stamp were the information sent by Qiao Don. No wonder he felt at the time that the overall strength of the drifting star group was not strong, and it was more like cannon fodder, or deliberately sending detailed information about the aliens. Qiao Don spent such a means to transmit the means of communication. It can be said that Qiao Don was painstaking. Li Yu was silent for a while and said, Commander He, why is he willing to do this? Is it because of hatred? Chapter 270 Analysis. Hearing this, He Guangzi showed a bit of disappointment. Of course there is hatred, but it is definitely not this big. At that time, it was just because the human side was weak, and many talented people had to take risks for this. In those years before your great-grandfather was born, those who were at the forefront of evolution were trying to save the nation. Li Yu was silent in his heart. These predecessors are indeed worthy of admiration. In terms of age, Qiao Don is probably about the same age as Mo Xiangquang. If there were no foreign enemies invading humans, most of them would be able to live out their lives now. It's a pity that humans born on Earth naturally carry a certain original sin of being coveted. For example, the rich wisdom factors that the gourd man once discovered on Earth, the star division that possesses the secrets of the star supreme of the second age of divinity, and the enlightenment divine mountain that the fifth age resurrectionists coveted so much that they were willing to hide for 100 years. Including the other 5 major divisions, perhaps each of them also hides many mysteries that humans have not yet understood. Seeing Li Yu's expression, He Guangzi said with a dim look in his eyes, Okay, let's stop the matter of commemorating our ancestors for now. The focus now is to review the key links of the war and find out the omissions. You have a strong analytical ability, but don't let me despair. I've been thinking about it all day and my head is about to split. Commander He, don't say that. It puts a lot of pressure on me. He Guangzi raised the corner of his mouth dryly and continued to narrate. 3 months ago, after we got in touch with Qiao Don, our intelligence on the aliens has also made rapid progress. At the same time, when I reported the secret intelligence to General Lin also told me that the human side had planted a gold level undercover in the Star Clan. He told me that this gold level strongest has been planted for 10 years. He didn't say who it was, but based on Qiao Don's acquisition of the commander's authority, we secretly laid out a plan to counterattack the Star Clan. It's just that your triggering of the Enlightenment Mountain has detonated this matter ahead of time. Therefore, we had to temporarily modify the plan. In the end, your assault team put Kai Erngiying into their command starship, delivered the key item, the high-energy gene bomb, and Qiao Don used it. Of course, I don't mean to blame you here, Because if you didn't lead out the resuscitators in advance, and let us wipe out the resuscitators in batches, then maybe the plan could have another ending. That is, our home was successfully stolen, and we were attacked from both sides. And the whole clan was destroyed. It may even be that it was the action of detonating them in advance that caused the ancestor of the Star Clan to have problems with his arrival this time, and he has not appeared yet. Hearing this, Li Yu was speechless. This series of situations may really be linked together. If any link is moved, the result of the whole battle will be different, and they will go to different branches. He Guangzi continued, it is worth mentioning that a small change occurred before the final plan was implemented. The original version was requested by Qiao Dawn, who wanted Kai Engying to directly blow up the high-energy gene bomb to kill him, but after Kai Engying arrived, Qiao Dawn said to give him the high-energy gene bomb. In the end, Qiao Dawn took the opportunity when Wu Zibo's body left the cabin, broke the command cabin, and sent the high-energy gene bomb over in the chaos, killing Wu Zibo, who was at the top of the gold level. Then, the command system was also in chaos. At this point, He Guangzi stopped. Basically, this is the whole process. Some details in the middle cannot be observed. I am just speculating based on the situation afterwards. If you see it or think it is wrong, you can refute me. Li Yu pondered. After a while, he said, I have a question. Why did Wu Zibo leave the cabin in his physical body? He Guangzi said, at that time, they were checking for the traitor. Li Yu touched his chin and said, so, who was the first to propose to check for the traitor? It was Hang Zilong, the last leader of the young and strong faction who was not affected by the beheading operation, He Guangzi said, and his expression suddenly changed slightly. No, according to the news that came before, the first person to propose a physical examination should be Wu Zibo. Hang Zilong just said that he knew there was a traitor. But it was Wu Zibo who carried out this inspection. The reason why he left the cabin in his physical body in the end was purely because of the soul voice of the ancestor of the Star Clan who appeared at the end. The ancestor of the Star Clan did not show up throughout the whole scene. Only when Wu Zibo and another strong man named Tang Zivu were arguing, he suddenly exerted soul pressure and asked the two to leave the cabin in their physical bodies for inspection. After that, Qiao Dawn used the high-energy gene bomb to destroy Wu Zibo. Moreover, with the death of Wu Zibo, the voice of the ancestor of the Star Clan no longer appeared. Hearing this, Li Yu thought, Commander He, do you think it is possible that the so-called soul pressure was emitted by Qiao Dawn? Is the purpose just to lure Wu Zibo out of the cabin? He Guangzi was stunned after hearing this, and thought for a moment and said, it should not be possible. Qiao Dawn is not a soul-type deity. It is unlikely no matter how you think about it. Besides, the purpose of luring Wu Zibo out of the cabin is not to suspect him as the ancestor of the Star Clan. Li Yu said, if it is not possible, then I think maybe the situation is so smooth, and you are worrying too much, Commander He, because from the whole process, it is all benefited by us humans. I can't think of what the ancestor of the Star Clan went to so much trouble just to hide. Most likely, he failed and we won. It's that simple. The only remaining hand is still the SS level on Earth. And the remaining main members of the Star Clan. A trace of persistence flashed across Li Guangzi's eyes, and he said, no, there must be something missing. You should study it carefully. There is detailed information on the table. You can read it again. Maybe there will be other inspirations. Li Yu was helpless. He could see that Li Guangzi had consumed too much energy in commanding the large army just now, so that he was now hyperactive. Normally, a high-level Cheyenne Wei strongman would be physically strong and full of spirit, and would definitely not be so entangled in a self-harming way. He observed He Guangzi's appearance and thought, why is Chief He so entangled? Has he discovered some other secrets? What is he doubting? A strong man like him, his self-control ability would definitely not be so weak. While thinking, he focused on the various intelligence materials on the desktop. These are all light screen pages, which zoom very quickly. He quickly searched through them, trying to find some clues. Suddenly, a document called Study on the Origin of the Star Clan caught his attention. The author of the document was Wazibu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Source. Zibo, a strange thought came to Li Yu's mind. It seems that the previous guess needs to be corrected. He subconsciously opened the document and began to check. The content contained 3 kinds of text: alien language, star language, and human language. Obviously, the original text was in the star language, and then translated into alien language and human language. The structure of the star language is similar to that of the alien language. Although Li Yi has no basic knowledge, he can quickly understand the basic content by guessing with his perfect skills. With a reference of the translated text, even if it is just by the way, he quickly grasped the basic structure logic of the star language. The catalog is the original text of the star, and each of them is marked with some standard times of the aliens. Li Yi converted it in his mind, and the initial year corresponding to the catalog should be 310,000 years before the birth of mankind. Turn to the main text. This time period is the text of the initial record of the origin of the star, which is also an overview text. There is a star in the scorching star region, named Terry, with a diameter of 1 billion kilometers, majestic and boundless, scorching and boundless, dominating the scorching star region, and is the supreme star in the scorching star region. Terry has Terry wind, which flows day and night, carrying huge amounts of radiation and free divinity. One day, Terry wind brought mysterious creative matter, and thus, the first stellar life form was born. It is shaped like a fish, colorless and transparent, and can only reflect extremely high-frequency color spectrum. After cruising like this for tens of thousands of years, the god of creation introduced intelligent factors such as reproduction and selfishness. And the stellar life forms gradually became intelligent, and their bodies turned cold, turning from asexual reproduction to sexual reproduction. As the Terry wind circulated outward, the first intelligent stellar life forms used it to sow the seeds in the scorching star region. Thus, over the past 100,000 years, stellar life forms have rapidly grown and multiplied in the scorching star region, and their bodies have become colder, from the initial body temperature of tens of thousands of degrees to gradually reduce to 3,000, hundreds, and dozens. The more they reproduce, the colder their bodies are, and the deeper their wisdom is, the deeper the wisdom, the easier it is to discover the divine relics and comprehend the mysteries of the divine. From then on, over the past 100,000 years, they gradually grew stronger, walked out of the scorching star field, fought with aliens for thousands of years, and gradually merged into the Central Empire, known as the Star Clan, the Silver Power Clan. After reading the overall overview, Li Yi roughly understood the origin of the Star Clan. No wonder these Star Clan people, named the Star Clan, have basically never seen any innate abilities such as scorching and high temperature. Moreover, when Li Yi saw the description of selfishness and reproduction type wisdom factors, the first thing he thought of was the gourd man. It seems that it corresponds to some of the situations he had learned before. The gourd man's so-called pollution of other star fields is probably his failed experiment 300,000 years ago, which led to the birth of the Star Clan. Although races such as the Star Clan are obviously not the same species as humans, they also have many similarities. They are also flesh and blood, have limbs and facial features, and have similar brain structures and organ layouts. Except for the narrower and flatter head, the longer and narrower eyes, and the rough, hairless and scaly skin, the other parts are 70% similar to the human species. Most likely, the gourd man had the same gene template in the virus that implanted the selfish and reproductive intelligence factors. It is also because of this similar gene template that similar carbon-based intelligent creatures were born. Although Li Yi has not confirmed it, in his current cognition, apart from the gourd man, there is indeed no one else who can be called the god of creation of the Star Clan. The Star Clan is obviously a powerful life form, but due to wisdom and continuous reproduction, its innate constitution has been weakening. This is probably what the gourd man called failure. He continued to read. From the overview, there are detailed records of the specific research on the origin of the Star Clan, including which planet, which ruins, and what situations were discovered. For example, through which ruins, it was verified that the Star Clan was originally a high-temperature and scorching life form, what level of body temperature had reached, what obvious traces were left, etc. There is also the existence of the god of creation, and it seems that something suspected to be notes of the gourd man was discovered, from which the factors of reproduction and selfish intelligence were known. There are detailed appendix materials for these aspects. Li Yi quickly read through the entire document and quickly came to a conclusion. This research document has a very high credibility. The true origin of the Star Clan is probably close to the truth. There may be some errors, but it is basically as described by the author Wu Zhibo, which is extremely detailed and reliable. Then the problem comes. Because this information is too detailed and real, Li feels that the content of this document is probably not based on real research. Instead, he first knows the answer and then writes the research process. Even if the golden strongmen of the Star Clan can live half as long as humans, it is impossible to know everything that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. Unless this Wuzibo has a strong time and space characteristic ability. No, even the top strongest should not be able to do this. It can only be a resurrector, or he has come into contact with a gourd man at all. But considering that the resurrector may not be active for a long time, and looking at some tendencies in the description of the text, he thinks the latter is more likely. Li thought for a moment, looked at Yi Guangzi, and said, "Commander He, how did you get this information? Is it the secret information of the Star Clan that Qiao Dong got?" He Guangzi had noticed the information that Li focused on before, and his expression remained solemn. Hearing this, he immediately said, "This is the secret information that Qiao Dong got. When we just got in touch, he translated a lot of secret information in the Star Clan and sent it to me, because the communication components are not large, the distance is far, and the resource consumption is also high. These files and information were not sent until a period of time after the war started. It is worth mentioning that this information should be the last few pieces of information sent. You can see the recorded time above." Li heard this and quickly compared and converted the information to send time. The specific time of sending this textual research material should be 1 or 2 minutes after Zhang Shengfang discovered the resurrectionist and fought with him. At this time, Zhang Shengfang had already sent the information that the Star Clan ancestor was hidden among the Star Clan's golden strongmen, and He Guangzi passed it to Qiao Dong. After confirming the time, Li felt that he had grasped something and said, "Chief He, if the author of this information is Wu Zibo, that would be interesting. This means that Wu Zibo has probably seen this so-called god of creation. There may even be more than one super strong person behind this Wu Zibo." He Guangzi's eyes moved slightly, and he reacted quickly, guessing Li's thoughts at once. "You mean, this god of creation and the current ancestor of the Star Clan are two opposing resurrectors?" Li nodded and said, "Yes, maybe there is another resurrector who helped us in our victory this time. It is precisely because of the help of another resurrector that we finally seemed thrilling. But still successfully won this hasty and disparate war." He Guangzi's eyes lit up. "It is indeed possible. I was stuck in a dead end before. Originally, there may not be only one resurrector, nor may they exist in only one era. They each have their own demands and should not be confused. However, how do you know for sure that there is a battle between the revivers hidden behind the Wuzibo? You have even seen this so-called god of creation," Li explained. "If Qiao Dong had thrown the high-energy gene bomb at other gold warriors at that time and made a wrong judgment, we might not have won this battle so easily. Think about it, Commander He. If Qiao Dong had discovered where the ancestor of the Star Clan was hiding before, he would have warned us long ago, right? In the end, he didn't. In other words, Qiao Dong learned or judged that the ancestor of the Star Clan was hidden behind the Wuzibo, probably just a few minutes before throwing it." As he said that, he pointed to the light screen text of the origin of stars on the table and said, "This information is probably the key for Qiao Dong to discover that the winner of this battle lies in the Wuzibo." Chapter 272 Seeking Help. Let's speculate and recreate Qiao Dong's situation at that time. All the information he sent over represents all the information he learned in the Star Clan. Through this information, we can also recreate what he discovered at that time, right? He Guangzi naturally nodded to Li Yi's question. He also wanted to see what Li Yi had judged. Li Yi continued, "Captain He, take a look at what this information is, not to mention the origin of the Star Clan. The other major parts are the historical records of the Star Clan, the inventory of the prehistoric relics of the Star Clan, the origin of the internal genealogy of the Star Clan, and so on. The other small part is the intelligence on the various types of military forces of the Star Clan, the introduction of the major alien races, and so on. The part involving technology and divine skills is even less. Then, Commander He, don't you find these proportions strange? You have been in contact for so long. Why didn't he give priority to sending some information about technology, forces and military forces? This can't be what you asked for, right?" Hearing this, He Guangzi was slightly startled and said, "Yes, he did choose to send the information on his own initiative. Although I made a request, some of the information sent over was indeed inconsistent with my initial needs. He said at the time that the information he sent was the one he considered important and prioritized. After all, the signal was limited at the time, and the file transfer speed was very slow. It often took 3 or 4 days to send a complete copy. Liu nodded, tapped the light curtain with his fingers, and said in a deep voice, "Yes, this is the key. Since he thinks these materials are important, did he give any hints on where the key points of these materials are?" He Guangzi shook his head and understood what Liu meant, and said, "He did not say which of these materials are important and which ones involve the key points. Now that I think about it, there is indeed a problem. These materials seem to be able to enhance our understanding of the Star Clan, but in the direct level of war, they are indeed not very effective." Liu continued, "He did not indicate which things in the materials are important, which means that Qiao Dong probably had a lot of situations in the Star Clan that he had not figured out at the time, so he could only give priority to sending these materials that may help us find the problems." In other words, after his long-term activities in the Star Clan, he determined that the historical origins of the Star Clan contain the secret that can lead us to victory. Let's look at these documents he sent from this perspective. And then look at this document written by Wu Zhibo. You will find that Wu Zhibo's various descriptions of this god of creation are filled with reverence and admiration. Hearing this, He Guangzi reached out and touched the light screen on the table, quickly flipping through the pages and turning to the study on the origin of the Star Clan, which contained all the descriptions of the god of creation. Through searching, he found that in addition to the overview on the first page, the word was also mentioned many times in the following dozens of pages. He looked around and nodded, saying, "Indeed, there is almost no negative description, and there are many praises. There are also many flattering words about the possible weakening of the innate physique of the Star Clan caused by this god of creation." Liu continued, "Think about it, Chief He. Among these materials, the authors of other materials are not the gold or silver masters we currently know. Only this one was written by Wu Zhibo, a gold master. This shows that their masters have no habit of doing academic research. Moreover, Wu Zhibo is the most detailed and most complete of all the materials. It is so complete that it seems as if he has witnessed the process of the god of creation introducing the wisdom factor. Will this not arouse Qiao Dong's suspicion?" He Guangzi touched his chin and said, "Hearing what you said, let alone Qiao Dong, I also began to feel that Wu Zhibo seems to have really seen this god of creation, but this still cannot involve the existence of the second resurrectionist, right? This god of creation is the resurrector of a certain divine era, and he is also the same person as the current ancestor of the Star Clan. It is not impossible." Hearing this question, Liu smiled. Of course, he first determined that the gourd man and the current ancestor of the Star Clan were not the same person, and then he inferred the answer from this. After all, the gourd man has lived for such a long time, and this ancestor of the Star Clan is estimated to have lived for at most 3,000 or 4,000 years. Although the two may not have a relationship between clones, Liu judged based on their style of behavior that they are probably different characters. After all, the gourd man has always been hiding well, and his style is mainly to hide. And this ancestor of the Star Clan, although he has also hidden many clones, has been found several times, which shows that his methods are still inferior to those of the gourd man. Of course, Liu's in-depth exploration of the gourd man is not worth telling others for the time being. But it doesn't matter. The human upper class already knows about the existence of the gourd man. He only needs to conceal things related to the longevity core. He began to explain, "It's a very simple judgment. The resurrected ones were resurrected from ancient times. The strength of the Star Clan ancestor is no more than a demigod. Even if he was a demigod, or even above a demigod, his lifespan was not enough. How could he be active from 300,000 years ago to now? Even the supreme-level powerhouses that appeared in the Second Era may not be able to survive forever, right? Based on some of the situations I learned in the Enlightenment Divine Mountain before, even the dominant-level powerhouses of the First Era had concerns about insufficient lifespan. What's more, this ancestor of the Star Clan whose strength is probably not even top-level, therefore, unless the ancestor of the Star Clan has other miraculous ways to prolong his life, no matter how powerful the hibernation technology is, it is impossible for a demigod to live so long. Moreover, if he can really be active for a long time, why didn't he revive after the disaster ended? Instead, he chose to be active now when the disaster is about to occur. This shows that he has a reason to wake up and be active in this era, or he is simply passively revived. Then, the one from 300,000 years ago is most likely not him, but the gourd man found in the Xianshu ruins before. because in the experimental notes of the gourd man, the process of inventing the reproductive wisdom factor and the selfish wisdom factor was written, it has been confirmed that this gourd man also has the ability to survive for hundreds of thousands of years, or even longer, and that Star Clan ancestor is probably just borrowing a shell from the Star Clan. He Guangzi nodded and said, "That's right, in this case, it all makes sense. This Hibo was probably the revival tool or other spokesperson for the god of creation at the beginning. It was only later that the current Star Clan ancestor invaded and took over. That's why Hibo, who was praising the god of creation, actually had the soul of the Star Clan ancestor on him, and on the battlefield. The one who really suppressed the Star Clan's main body for us, forcing him to use his soul to descend on Hibo, was probably this god of creation. Plus, Lao Zhang held back the clone who sneaked into the earth, and both of them were injured, which saved us from being robbed and surrounded from behind the Stargate. Plus, Hibo's body was blown up, so the real body of the Star Clan ancestor could not come, and his soul could not descend, so we won the subsequent battle so smoothly. Otherwise, our situation at that time would definitely not be so easy." At this point, the two finally reviewed the situation completely. Coincidentally, as the two finished reviewing the logic, new news seemed to be sent back from the Earth. It was written on the light screen: the traces of SS-class mechas were found, fighting, requesting support. Chapter 273 Stargate. Seeing the news, both of them were startled. The SS-class mecha was discovered so quickly? He Guangzi frowned and said, "This SS-class mecha has caused trouble again so quickly? It seems that you and I have to go out." Li Yu also nodded. Most of the masters who stayed behind now have tasks, either following Lin Jianlong to hunt down the gold of the Star Clan, or being sent back to Earth to guard. The two of them didn't say anything else, and quickly summoned a group of strong men above the middle stage of the heavenly rank and gathered quickly. Among them, of course, Lin Wendong, Mu Xianli, Chen Kaiongzi, Mo Chenlong and other strong men above the middle stage who were in the same assault team with Li Yu before. In addition, the captains of the general mecha team, such as Ten Baixin of the Yaoqi ship, Lin Ziyun of the Kufu ship, and Zhang Guanlin of the Zhiri ship, are also middle-level masters and were also recruited. There are also many captains with good strength. Although they have not yet completed the ship transformation, most of them are of middle to high strength. Many of these were also recruited and selected. Soon, the first batch of middle to high heavenly ranked teams returning to Earth for assistance had completed their assembly. The total number of this group of people reached 60, basically accounting for a quarter of the mid to high level strength participating in this battle. The rest guarded the border star to prevent the aliens from making a comeback. Li Yu knew that Yi Guangzi's original plan for the next step was to march onto the main planet of the Star Clan after the repairs were completed, to capture the opponent's important places, and to obtain more combat resources of the Star Clan. Unfortunately, now that the SS-level enemy is lurking, the rear of the Earth is in danger. If the base camp is penetrated by the SS level, the result will be disastrous. You know, the ruins of the Earth are the cradle of the birth of human power. Since all the masters with strength above the middle stage of the heavenly position are dispatched this time, in order to pursue efficiency, everyone will start the mecha immediately after the assembly and rush to the Stargate. This time, there is no need for a starship. With their current physical endurance and the divine mecha above level B, they can completely withstand the huge load and space-time distortion brought by the Stargate transmission. The leader is naturally He Guangzi. Lu Yanchen, the ninth stage of the heavenly position, followed Lin Jianlong to hunt down the gold of the Star Clan and has not returned yet. Therefore, He Guangzi is the strongest in this rescue team. The next are the captains of each ship and Mo Zhenquang, Tu Kuogai, who are from the Earth base and are high-level Xianwei. There are more than 10 people in total. Except for the injured Chen Yanzhang and Tan Yaozu who are already on Earth, this rescue basically includes the top 10 masters of the human Xianwei. As far as Li Yu knows, among the top 10 masters, Lu Yancheng ranks first, He Guangzi ranks second, Tan Yaozu ranks third, and Chen Yanzhang ranks eighth. The rest are the fourth contemporary captain of Taishan ship Zhuangcaishan, the fifth contemporary captain of Kunlun ship Fan Tinghun, and the sixth contemporary captain of Qinling ship Lilongji. The seventh is the former captain of Yugong ship Yizundao. But this person has been confirmed to be a resurrector. The ninth is the old captain of Hensh ship Yu Qingqing, and the 10th is the old captain of Kunpeng ship Zhuangzhao. By the way, Zhuangcaishan was also from Yaoqi ship in the early days. He was the instructor of the second generation of special class of Yaoqi ship and had a long experience. Although Li Yi had learned the basics of the divine skill, Kaiyan, that he had left behind on the Yaoqi ship, he had never spent much time to study it. Because of the many skills he had mastered, there were many places that required continuous consumption of dream memories, and the resources were limited. If he could see Zhongkation perform this move this time, he could immediately learn from him. With a template reference, it would be more efficient than spending time studying it by himself. After all, no matter how many memory fragments there were, they could not withstand his current massive learning tasks. Li Yu was not familiar with these masters before, but they all made contributions in the battle, and he also met them this time. However, because the rescue was urgent, they did not say much, but just started their mechas and quickly left the warehouse under He Guangzi's order. Soon, from receiving the message for help to the gathering of the masters, it took only 3 minutes, and these huge divine mechas quickly flew out of the starship and flew towards the stargate of the human side. Although they have occupied the alien stargate this time, they cannot bring the stargate into the human domain for the time being because the debugging of the stargate requires corresponding experts. Moreover, even if they are included, it is dangerous. There is no geographical advantage here. Once a war breaks out, it is easy to be snatched back. Therefore, they still have to speed up to fly back to the stargate and then quickly return to Earth. Fortunately, the starship had already set off quickly when they started. Now they fly back again, and with the help of the gravity of the border star, they can arrive soon. About 5 minutes later, these 60 divine mechas quickly penetrated a stargate. Li Yu drove the Gaia Mecha this time. Facing an SS-level opponent, without an A-level mecha, he might not even be able to scratch the opponent's skin. This is also the first time that Li Yu drove a divine mecha into the stargate. This huge stargate contains majestic divinity, like a turbulent vortex, flowing at high speed. As soon as the Gaia Mecha touched these huge divine vortices like water waves, it began to shake violently. A strong compressive force suddenly pressed down. The extremely solid cockpit seemed to shrink a little, making a crackling sound. Li Yu felt an unprecedented special load. This feeling was like a force from all directions tearing him apart. He immediately activated the special characteristics and subtle perception, combining the two to carefully feel and memorize this special force structure. Although his current subtle perception can only reach the millimeter level, under the detection system of the Gaia Mecha, combined with a microscopic information analysis skills, he still discovered many different things at once. It was a more subtle and exquisite rhythm of space and time. For a moment, Li Yu seemed to have realized something, and followed the leader He Guang's Thunder King Mecha, and quickly traveled through the jump channel created by this stargate. This jump channel was lightless and colorless, pitch black, with only a few faint lights appearing in the distance. At this time, He Guangzi's voice sounded on the public channel, "Everyone, please follow closely. The jump channel in the stargate is relatively stable, but there are many detours. If you go the wrong way, you will not go to Earth, but to other areas. If you are unlucky and get lost in a destroyed stargate node, the consequences will be disastrous." At this time, someone asked, "Commander He, what are the consequences?" "I don't know. Anyway, it has never appeared on the human side again. I guess it may be torn apart by the turbulence of time and space, or it has simply traveled to a parallel world. Will it connect to the alien side? In theory, it will. However, the Stargate can adjust the scope of entry and exit, so our current channel can only lead to the Stargate that exists within the human territory." After some explanation, the mechas traveled quickly for more than 10 minutes and finally approached a tiny light spot. This is the entry and exit node of the Earth Stargate. If you are entering and exiting for the first time, remember to record the coordinates on the Mecha, so that you can fly directly according to the built-in time and space navigation next time. Chapter 274 Fighting. Soon, 60 divine mechas flew out of the Stargate node. The moment they flew out, Li Yu withdrew from the mysterious realm of perception, and for a moment he felt a bit lost. In just over 10 minutes, he seemed to be in an ocean of time and space. With the special characteristics and subtle perception, he learned something unprecedented. The intensity of this speculation should be large enough. When I go back to the dream space, I may be able to obtain a lot of application of special characteristics and even corresponding knowledge of principles. Li Yu reviewed it in his mind and knew that he would definitely be able to swipe out the corresponding memory fragments this time. Although humans also have a lot of knowledge about space, But as a three-dimensional life, the cognition of space is obviously not comprehensive enough. There is also a lack of sufficient application knowledge. If, based on the perception of spatial characteristics this time, he further speculates, and then studies the time and space spire in the heritage ruins, he may be able to truly master the knowledge and obtain the secret book of years that may be hidden in it. Although the gourd man left a bunch of codes, it is necessary to crack them to determine which specific spire is the corresponding. But this does not affect Li Yi's current guess. As the idea flashed in his mind, the mechas had already flown out of the Earth Stargate and flew out to the ground passage. This is a small stargate deep in the Earth's core. If you want to fly to the surface of the Earth, you have to go through a long exit passage. He Guangxi began to give orders. According to the latest news, the location where the SS level appeared is in the South American continent. The opponent is very strong, more than 620 meters high, with the ability of the mecha to be indestructible, and can quickly repair damage. The characteristics are unknown for the time being, and not many characteristics and abilities have been demonstrated. The technical and tactical level is guaranteed to be perfect. The first move is a ruthless killing move, which is extraordinary. Everyone present, except those with a heavenly trick, can only assist in firing from the periphery to prevent being affected nearby. Li Yi, although you don't have a heavenly trick, I allow you to fight flexibly, close or far, and arrange freely. In order to prevent the opponent from escaping, you must hide before approaching, and approach from all directions. After that, He Guangxi quickly explained the strategy of group combat. As they were talking, the 60 mechas were already flying out of the Earth channel with extremely fierce flames, flying out of the mountains where the channel was located. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was daytime on Earth at this moment. Above the cities, the sound of gas explosions like super thunder was soon heard one after another, and everyone looked up. The clouds were pulled out with super tails of more than thousands of meters, extending to the eastern sky, dreamy and dazzling in the sun. Not long after, the mechas arrived at the battle group located in the Andes Mountains in South America. Boom, boom, boom. The endless, towering peaks were destroyed by the aftermath of the major battles, and the ground was covered with gravel and smoke. In the battle group, several high-level A-level mechas that stayed in the local area were struggling to maintain the battle. Li Yu glanced over and saw that in addition to the SS-class noseless mecha that was not too small even on the mountain, there were also Tan Yaozu's assistant mecha, Zhao He's fire dragon mecha, and Zhao Mengheo's ghost mecha. The fire dragon mecha was exactly 400 meters long and was red all over. It was covered with red armor, which was hexagonal and overlapped to form a thin, close-fitting armor, outlining sharp lines and highlighting the mecha's strong biomaterial texture. Obviously, this was probably a divine mecha from the 4th era, driven by the strongest Zhao He. At this moment, the red flame spread outside the body, and it continuously launched the strongest tricks to resist the approach of the SS-class mecha in front. On the other side, the ghost mecha directly launched a lot of ghost tentacles on the ground to continuously block the approach of the noseless mecha. Although the level difference was too great, with the suppression of the red flames launched by Zhao He, these tentacles could actually play a role on the scene, entangled with the divine shield outside the noseless mecha, and constantly twisted to consume the opponent's divinity. The Zilai mecha held a B-class building slashing knife, and chopped it in the air, launching the ultimate move of the heavenly position, Zilai ninefold. This move was also the ultimate move he had used to intercept the volley of divine energy cannons from several powerful people before. Through the combination of characteristics, the conceptualized Zilai special effect can be realized. Any attack can destroy the internal coordination of the opponent's attack and destroy the opponent's attack. Conversely, it can also be launched directly to directly destroy the internal balance of the opponent's divine shield, divine armor and other objects. As long as the divinity does not achieve absolute suppression on him, it can be reversely suppressed by this move. This is also the key to Tan Yaozu's ranking in the top 3 of the human heavenly position. With this move alone, he can cross a level to fight the enemy. However, it is obvious that the SS-class mecha is completely crushed in the battle on the field now. The 3 mechas can only barely maintain balance. He Guangxi's Thunder King mecha has already jumped away first. Between the mountains and the thin clouds, this 273-meter-long Thunder King mecha suddenly released an extremely abrupt divine energy cannon, which suddenly penetrated a 1,000-meter range like a very condensed long needle. Swish! With a cracking sound, the divine shield that was entangled by the ghost suddenly pierced a small gap, was penetrated by the divine long needle, and extended to pierce the belly armor of the noseless mecha. Boom boom. The moment the divine long needle pierced, the condensed momentum immediately dispersed. It was obviously unable to penetrate the body of the noseless mecha and was rebounded by the divinity on the surface of the body. However, the Thunder King mecha's action was not over yet. The divinity on the palm suddenly gathered. It was the second stage of the divine compression technique that was taught to Li Yi before. At the same time, the Thunder King mecha continued to rush forward, the steps shook, and the light on the palm became more and more condensed. Then, this palm suddenly hit noseless mecha's divine shield that had just been pierced and repaired. Bang! When the two came into contact, an unprecedented shockwave of terror broke out instantly. In just a moment, a huge circular plane was immediately plowed out outside the two mechas. The massive shock waves also shook several surrounding divine mechas. At this time, Li Yi and his men also caught up. 59 mechas came from all directions at different speeds. But as the distance got closer, the magnificent momentum also aroused the vigilance of the noseless mecha. After taking the terrifying palm force of the divine compression of the Thunder King mecha, it was unscathed and jumped back lightly. Then, the flames behind him suddenly flashed. Boom! The ground was instantly pierced by the huge flames, leaving a huge charred black. At the same time, under the surprised eyes of everyone, it suddenly accelerated and broke away from the current battle group. Intercept. Don't let him run away. He Guangzi had anticipated this situation before and arranged a rough interception formation for each mecha. Therefore, when the noseless mecha flew, 5 mechas above the middle stage of A level appeared in the corresponding direction. As long as they can intercept for a few seconds, the A-class mechas in other directions will immediately fill the gap and directly outflank. This is also the purpose of choosing 60 A-class mechas this time to achieve saturation combat. Coincidentally, the direction chosen by the noseless mechas this time is exactly the 5 mechas on Li Yi's side. Chapter 275, Fierce Fight. This noseless mecha, which is twice as long as the Gaia mecha, rushed down with unparalleled impact. Boom! In the violent sonic boom, the big fist that was thicker than the Gaia mecha's body suddenly smashed down. The Gaia mecha raised its A-level Zanpakutsu sword and rushed forward. The blade was entangled with divinity, exerting force at the millimeter level, superimposing the whole body's kinetic energy. Get out of the way. Just before the contact, He Guangzi realized that something was wrong and shouted loudly, reminding from a distance. Li Yi ignored it and controlled the Gaia mecha to continue holding the sword forward. Then, the sword blade and the fist collided. Boom! With a loud noise, the Gaia mecha flew backwards. Several mid-level A-level teammate mechas around wanted to help ease the impact, but heard Li Yi shouting on the public channel, "No need to help, you intercept first." This attack seemed to have directly knocked the Gaia mecha away, but the power of the noseless mecha was too strong, and the power of the Gaia mecha was far inferior. In fact, the Gaia mecha used the kinetic energy conversion of force like flowing water to dissolve the strong force hitting itself at the moment of contact and felt the disparity in strength between the two sides. This also allowed Li Yi to quickly understand the basic situation of the opponent's combat power. In terms of technical and tactical level, it should have touched the threshold of force like flowing water, but it has not yet reached it completely. But it can already superimpose more than 90% of the huge kinetic energy of the whole body, so even ordinary boxing has a terrifying power that shakes the world. One punch can even produce the effect of destroying asteroids. If combined with the basic skills of divinity, it is likely that the crust of medium and large planets can be directly broken. If there is no restraint, and the divine energy cannon is fully bombarded, or the special tricks of the demigod level, it is likely that even giant planets can be easily destroyed. Fortunately, the foundation of the Earth itself is not bad. In addition to the 7 major divisions, there are various large and small ruins that reinforce the stability of the planet. Otherwise, the aftermath of the joint battle of the current few divine mechas can destroy the Earth. At this moment, after the Gaia mecha flew backwards 1,000 meters, it turned over steadily, unloaded the last impact aftershocks, and floated in the air. The other opponents also launched their own moves to intercept the opponent. Among the 5 teammates around him, there happened to be no high-level Xianwei, so the power of the moves was not strong. One of the Fury Wind mechas rushed quickly and activated the Xianwei characteristic, Hurricane. For a moment, countless strong winds swept up and rushed away rapidly. In the air, countless air currents formed a violent vortex shock wave, smashing towards the noseless mecha, and swallowed it in an instant. However, the noseless mecha's body was only slightly shaken, and the divine shield exploded, and the airflow suddenly stopped. The air was quiet for this. Immediately afterwards, the noseless mecha rushed forward suddenly, not intending to end the opponent, but the divine flame outside the body flashed again, preparing to run away again. It seems that even an SS-level mecha is afraid of the siege of 60A level or above mechas. Once the encirclement is formed, it will definitely not be good. At this time, the Gaia mecha had already rushed over again. He Guangzi quickly sent a message, Li Yi, don't worry, this SS mecha has not yet used its full strength, be careful not to be endangered by a sudden trick. He had just fought with a noseless mecha for a while, and he knew that this SS-class mecha was very powerful and was definitely not in existence that could be easily controlled. Therefore, even if he believed that Li Yi was amazingly powerful, he was afraid that Li Yi would overturn, and his heart was tightened for a moment. Commander I know what I am doing and I won't fight hard, Li Yi replied to the message while controlling the Gaia mecha to flash and intercept the direction where the noseless mecha appeared. He had amazing predictive ability, so he naturally judged the escape route of the noseless mecha and intercepted it in advance. Immediately, the two formed a situation of meeting on a narrow road again. Li Yi knew that as long as he blocked it for a few seconds and let the teammates behind catch up, this SS-class mecha would naturally fall into the encirclement of humans. The reason why he took such a risk was not only because he was confident in his fighting skills. There was also a more important aspect, that was Zhang Shengfeng. Although it was just a glimpse, he had found this thought where Zhang Shengfeng was hidden in the noseless mecha with his amazing insight. There were obvious scratches left by humans on the side waist/shell of this SS-class mecha. Although it was very subtle, it had been repaired long ago. But with his microscopic analysis skills, he naturally discovered it quickly. Of course, it could also be traces left by other human captives. But considering that only the strongest can have such physical strength to produce scars, Li Yi immediately locked it, that is where Zhang Shengfeng was blocked. If the opponent escapes this wave, the human side will lose a tyrannical combat power. Under the overturned nest, how can there be eggs intact? Therefore, Li Yi's will to fight this wave is very determined. The noseless mecha was intercepted by the Gaia mecha, and it seemed a little annoyed, and the divinity outside the body suddenly exploded. In an instant, an unprecedented super explosion broke out directly outside the noseless mecha. Boom, boom, boom. A super explosion comparable to the landing of a meteorite suddenly occurred. At the center of the explosion, an unprecedented super shock wave spread in all directions at a terrifying speed of 15 times the speed of sound. The entire mountain range of thousands of meters was cut in half by this huge shock wave and directly destroyed. Then, the shock wave continued to spread to the periphery, plowing dozens of kilometers in an instant. Even though it was intercepted and reduced by the Andes Mountains, it still hit the outermost human city, causing a terrifying hurricane effect. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sky was full of debris. The more than 50 mechas that surrounded from all angles were also unstable for a while and could not approach immediately. The Gaia mecha was the closest, only 1,000 meters away, and the shock wave it received was also the strongest. However, Li Yi has now mastered the micro-level force, so he can naturally achieve micro-level force unloading. As long as the shock wave is not aimed directly at him, he can rely on the protection of the divine shield and the absolute fluid. And the overall damage is still not high. But even so, he had to spend a lot of energy to activate the subtle force dissipation technique, constantly shaking the whole body of the mecha to dissolve the continuous shock waves. As a result, all the mechas in the field were suppressed for a moment by this super large range attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the noseless mecha flashed with flames behind it and suddenly took off. Whoosh! In the dust and debris, the noseless mecha drew a surging stream of light and flew out in the blink of an eye. He Guangzi had already felt this scene and shouted, Jace. He wants to run to the alien planet. I will let the lunar fortress be responsible for intercepting him. In this battle, he must be left behind. Before the voice fell, the S-level fire dragon mecha had already dissolved the shock wave first, and the flames behind it flashed and took off. Next came Li Guangzi's Thunder King mecha, Tanyao Zu's assistant mecha, and Li Yi's Gaia mecha. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.